They just cut Coleman, didn't they?
This will be the second year. 22 cuts, Coleman Park.
Yeah, basically every 2 weeks.
Yeah, we go back.
8 cuts inside the city, right?
Yes.
Where's he at with that?
He sends a text, saying, let us know what area you start.
All righty, how you doing? Well,
We are live on Facebook. I'm sorry, YouTube.
I
Hey, Bo.
wanna know where he's at the moment.
Hey, Bo. Come here a second.
Tim, is it not on here?
It should be on.
No, I'm talking about on the drive, on the shared drive. Or was it online?
No, I
Okay.
just put it on because I thought you guys were just using the
I'm
website.
good with that.
Okay, that's what I thought.
How are you doing? Parker. Yes. I called the newspaper. They're gonna get the front page framed for you. Perfect. Thank you. Allison, did you see? Did you see?
Hey, bud.
Let me see if I can find it.
Yeah, she's right here.
Mr. Parker. The newspaper used to Parker.
She was probably running around doing something. So, you wanna just use my phone?
Oh, no, I'm coming. Tell him I'm coming. I'm sorry.
She gonna call you on hers.
Well, if he wants to
All
come.
right. She's gonna call you right back on.
I'll have to find it.
Hey, Bobby. Hey, Jamie. There were some, I guess some, hey, I can print y'all some more. Okay, let me get you in the speaker, okay? Okay, Bobby, I got you.
All right, thank you.
Goodbye. It's showing me that I am. Try it now. Because I see Jeremy sitting down.
I think they're trying.
It should be like 40 seconds. It's delayed.
Yeah, there's a delay.
Okay.
Tammy,
Yes, sir?
are they
All right,
gonna
y'all ready
give
to
us
get started?
copies of these maps that we can look at up here?
Parker, do you guys have copies of the maps? And Charlie, you have some in your packet.
Okay, thank you.
If y'all would, please stand and join us for Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And please remain standing for a moment of silent prayer. And keep the family of Stacy Ricks, who used to be with the state floodplain person for a long time. He passed away. All right, thank you.
Where'd you find that out? Where'd you find that out?
He got surgery this morning. Real nice guy.
Do we need more? Here.
All right, we'll call roll. Ward 1, Alderman Mr. Burke is present. Ward 2, Alderman Mr. Richardson is present by telephone. Ward 3, Alderman Mr. LaFontaine is present. Ward 4, Alderman Mr. Piazza is present. City Attorney, Mr. Malcolm Jones. City Clerk, Ms. Tammy Fayard, and myself. That sounded good, but weird. Under my comments, first of all, if I could get, Jeremy, would you give an update on the garbage collection services?
Yes. All right, I know it's been talked about for, I don't know, a few months, I think, in the beginning of December, that contract with Waste Management, that Hancock County Solid Waste Authority, which Waveland's a member of, was coming to an end at the end of this month. Hancock County Solid Waste Authority, which Waveland's one of the, by statute, one of the members of, put out RF solicitation for service contract. It's not a proposal, it's a service contract. They went through a vetting process, and Hancock County Regional Solid Waste Authority selected Coastal Environmental Services to be the contract. They provide the best service, and then actually at the end of the day, it was the lowest price. Once you go have curbside, bulky waste, recycling as we have it now is gonna still be the same of the recycling receptacles. They're gonna try to do a subscription service eventually. Citywide just the numbers didn't work. And then they also have, which Waveland I don't think has any of, but they do have a rate for actual containers for us and on call. But that being said, the Solid Waste Authority, I think 2 or 3 weeks ago, selected them or awarded them the contract. So with that being said, they're gonna take over, May 1st is when it goes into effect, so May 2nd will be is a Monday, so that'd be the first day of pickup. Everybody in Waveland, and I think for the whole county, but everybody in Waveland, if your trash gets picked up on Monday and Thursday or Tuesday and Friday, it is going to stay the same. The pickup days are gonna stay the same. They have delivered, I wanna say, they might have delivered all of Waveland's trash cans, if not all of them, but they're gonna be finishing up in the next few days countywide. It's a 95-gallon container. The way the market's going now, it's card-only contents. So if it is in the trash can, the green trash cans that they distribute, it will be picked up. There's gonna be some instructional videos, but essentially have it by the curb the night before. They're gonna start running routes at 5 in the morning. The route time might change. It's a side loader, so it is only getting picked up on the right side. So let's say you live on one side of the road, it will go down the side of your road, run the route. It might turn around and pick up the other side, or it might come back later in the day. It all depends how the route is mapped. But they will get back to it. Part of this contract, which I know Waveland, especially, I want to say, seemed like notoriously Ward 4 had issues with trash pickups of running off of Sears Avenue and Sundance. They have technology in the trucks that basically tells the driver, hey, we see you didn't go down these streets today. Go check them before you even come back to the terminal. So technology-wise, this is far and above the best company that put in for the bid. Gonna be card-only contact. You have one trash can that's part of the price. You can call and request additional trash cans, and it's only $12 a year for an additional can, and you can get up to, and they'll dump up to 5 cans, and they're 96-gallon cans. That was one of the other advantages. I want to say they were $12. They were $12 a year for an additional can. I think the next one that we had was a company was going to charge us $60. The next closest thing was somebody was going to charge $60 for an additional can. But if you have a square can, the ones that kind of look like even though it's smaller, square one, not the circle one, but a square one, they can probably still dump those. Granted, if they damage them, they won't replace those, but you can still use that one, so you don't have to go out, and if you just recently buy it, you can still utilize it as long as it's a square can. Part of the contract, and it's gonna help, and I think this is gonna have to be part of the pricing whenever we look at the residents. We currently do bulky waste, we currently do grappling service in-house for City of Waveland, plus bulky waste you can call to get a couch removed. Part of the contract is, and it's something that I wanna say, actually Alderman-4-20-2022 the one who thought of it and we brought it back to it. It was bid out that we're gonna do once a week bulky pickup. One of the concerns was that's not gonna be enough. If you're used to putting a couch on the side of the road and they come pick it up, or limbs on the side of the road and pick it up, waiting a must is not. So Coastal Environmental Services will be doing twice a month bulky waste pickup, which means you get 8 yards of bulky waste, limbs, white goods, so couch, washing machine, just the stuff that bags of leaves.
That's twice a month?
Twice a month.
They'll run all the streets?
Yeah, They'll run all the streets. The easiest way to do it is call them directly just to make sure they do. They want to put the least wear and tear on the streets. So since they're already going to be on the streets, the people that are running the streets to collect the curbside garbage can actually has essentially a button in the machine that says, hey, they put points everywhere. So they'll go say, hey, we passed by this one. So next time you're in the neighborhood, go down this street. So they're not going to go down unneeded streets, which is going to save, hopefully, are going to save some of our roads. But you're allowed 8 yards. This contract is completely separate from, currently, all residents can bring 10 yards to King Landfill. That's a whole separate contract that is still in place. Trying to think of some other high points. So it's that, essentially, I guess the biggest difference is, for this, it's cart-only contact. If it's in the container, that's what they pick it up. Whenever you put the container out, I guess the easy way to describe it, the lid needs to open towards the street. The handle of it goes towards your house. It's just so it dumps everything in it. You could do it the other way, but that's the biggest street. I don't think we have any one-way streets. Do we have any one-way streets in Waveland?
Couple dead end streets.
But no one-way streets, so that won't be the problem if you're on one side of the road or the other. But essentially, I think it was probably a 4-month process to put bids together to make it so it's what Waveland needs. Waveland's biggest thing was we need twice a week garbage pickup. That was something that was, so we got twice a week garbage pickup, trash containers, and frankly, if you go look at, Diamond Head has containers, but this is kind of one that, honestly, people that go to communities across the state, whenever it's cart only, it is a cleaner look for everybody. It is. It's, you don't have, everybody's a little guilty of it sometimes, but you're not going to have the neighbor that goes and just throws their bag on the side of the road and hopes to get pickup. It's going to honestly make the streets a lot cleaner. They're heavy ones. Animals are probably not going to be getting in these garbage cans. I'll say, and I'll get the prices to Tammy and Catherine, but they do have dumpster and roll-off services that I don't know where the prices that they will give to us accumulate to what we currently have, but I'll go make sure y'all, or here's a price on, I don't know if you want to give it to Catherine, just in case that's something that we need for our city yard and stuff like that. Anything else?
I think, did you mention the cost?
The cost of it, I know it's not on our agenda tonight, so.
Is there an increase?
Is that something we need to look at as a whole?
No, for anybody you go with, it's gonna be a cost. I wanna say, for Waveland, the curbside collection service is gonna be $13.75 per month.
And that includes the can, right?
That includes the can. And then the bulky waste is $2.75 per month. So that's what, $16.50 a month. Not the problem, it's just the fact of the matter is, 6 years ago, whenever Hancock County got Team Waste, that was a new my opinion, that was a new company. They really wanted Hancock County's contract. It was like a $9 or something like that contract. It was below market rate. The rates that are now, rates that are now, we could have gone cheaper if we want once a week pickup. I know twice a week is what everybody wanted. So that's kind of numbers. Like, these are probably the true rates, but countywide, with all the countywide, including the recycling receptacles and everything else, this I think it was figured out like $4,400 or $4,400 a month cheaper countywide. So
Now, how long is this contract good for?
this is a 6-year contract with 4 one-year options. So we had a 6-year contract. Now state law changed a few years ago, so these kind of collection contracts can now be 10 years. Now the next thing, and I guess it doesn't necessarily have to, it's going to be something that I think next year solid waste is going to have to come across that bridge when we get there, is the disposal contract. That's with Waste Management for Con Grove. That's a 25-year contract. That's about to, I think we're on year 23 or 24 of that. That's one that's gonna about to have to be rebid again also.
Jeremy, thank you. Thanks for that update.
The, and so this is, all starts May 1st?
Yes, May 1st. So everybody, I guess the biggest thing, which I'm notorious of, I go put my trash can out when I'm leaving for work in the morning. The routes are gonna start earlier. It's just gonna need, so if you're a Monday trash day, put your can out Sunday night opposed to Monday morning, because they might come and go before it's already said and done.
How many customers do we have online?
They're doing a house count now, because they know how many customers we have, because they're delivering, I don't know, it's somewhere in there, but, we'll have a firm number by then. I think it was, I'm trying to think, 2,700, 2,800?
That sounds,
I think maybe our utility department builds 2,800, and then there's a small part of Waveland that Hancock County Tax Assessor Jimmy Ladner sends the bills out for us, which is, I think it may be 100, 150.
That's right. All right, thank you very much.
So, Mayor, if I could speak, so
Please.
my intent is, since we have no choice but to implement this rate increase, is to bring an ordinance to the board to adopt at the first meeting of May, or possibly the second meeting of May. It will become effective on June the 1st. The idea is to go ahead and give the public a little bit of time to adjust to the significant rate increase. It's not like you have much choice, because you're gonna pay it as a city.
Yeah.
But I'll bring it forward, and we'll review it, and if you choose to adopt it, which I'm sure you will, because you really have no choice under your enterprise fund, you have to raise the revenue to cover the expense. It should be effective, as I said, on June the 1st, unless y'all choose a further date. But it just didn't seem fair to the public to go ahead and try to make it effective May 1st.
That quick, no.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Give people time to adjust.
All right, thank you very much.
One other question. Are we the only one that's gonna do the, grappler
No, it's countywide.
countywide?
So some of the pricing that we got, and frankly, it's economy of scale. Even if Waveland would bid out a contract for trash collection, instead of being what it is, probably add $8 more. So I'm not saying all entities, but it was consensus that everybody's gonna have grappling. Bulky waste, we needed it, so, and I know there's some, mostly in unincorporated Hancock County are the ones that burn leaves more than anything, and we go put it at the side of the road. They were fighting, but, Hancock County, also agreed that we're gonna do grappling service also, so it's kind of more a fair price for everybody.
All right, thank you. All right, moving on. Could I get a motion to approve a proclamation submitted by Hancock County CASA recognizing April 22nd, or 2022 rather, as Child Prevention Awareness Month?
Burke moves.
I'll second.
All right, Tammy, you want to read the proclamation?
Sure.
If you don't mind.
Proclamation National Child Abuse Awareness or Prevention Month. Whereas, as parents, as communities, and as a nation, the work of raising our children stands among our greatest responsibilities and our most profound blessings. The support we give and the examples we set form cornerstones for their success, and by teaching our children to trust in themselves, we equip them with confidence, hope, and determination that can last a lifetime. Tragically, neglect and abuse erode this fundamental promise for too many young Americans. During National Child Abuse Prevention Month, we renew our commitment to break the cycle of violence, strengthen the support for all who have been affected, and empower our young people with the best we have to offer. And whereas over 424,000 American children suffer neglect or abuse every year. In Mississippi alone, 3,867 children were in foster care in 2021, and 115 of those were from Hancock County. Whereas a strong and well-informed family unit is the is the surest defense against child abuse, and parents and caregivers who have support from relatives, friends, neighbors, and their communities are more likely to provide safe and healthy homes for their children. Trusted friends and active community members can help ensure families get the support they need by offering their time and resources, taking an active role in children's lives, and fostering a safe environment for young people to learn and grow. By coming together in service to our communities, we do more to meet our obligation to do right by the next generation. And whereas every child deserves the opportunity to grow up with the promise and protection of a loving family, this month we recommit to that vision and providing care, stability, and a brighter future for our sons and daughters. At this time, I encourage all citizens to observe April 2022 is Child Abuse Prevention Month. Now therefore given under my hand in the Great Seal of the City of Waveland on this, the 20th day of April 2022, I proclaim April is National Child Abuse Prevention Month, and it's signed Mike Smith.
Thank you, Tammy. Is there somebody from CASA? Guys, would y'all like to take a photo? Would you like a picture?
I just want to say thank you for doing this. We currently are serving 18 children who are residents of Waveland. So, so we appreciate y'all's support.
Y'all are phenomenal. CASA does a phenomenal job.
You want to just stand here and she'll stand down there, or you go and hand it to her and we'll stand behind here? Get in here. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
We have to get a picture of each of y'all when you're not here. We can hold you up.
Is he still there?
Yes,
Yes.
Bob, you still there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay.
Okay, last but not least under my comments is that happily, Saturday morning, bright and early, I got received a call from the Speaker of the House himself, telling us about, congratulating us on our award of BP funds of more than $2 million this year. So, didn't expect that call on a Saturday morning, but it was certainly welcome. So I just wanted to tell everybody that. I'm kind of excited about that.
Who was that?
Speaker of the House, Mr. Philip Gunn.
Right.
All right, Alderman's comments, Ward 1.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't put them on, but I got them all written down. I guess this is more of a public service announcement. And I can't even remember how many years they've been doing it. CNR Crawfish Cook-Off, that's gonna be supporting this year, as it's been the last few years, Hancock County Resource Center is this Saturday in Coleman. Want to save $5, you can go pre-order your wristband now.
What day?
Saturday, 23rd. This past Food Truck Friday, they only had 2 tables out. And they couldn't find them. Do we know where the rest of our tables are?
Yeah, Kristen had emailed me about that this week. I'm not sure, but
Can y'all get y'all's hands on them, or?
I'm gonna try. Chris and I will dig into that.
Alright. This is a request. So on the beach by the lighthouse right now, there is a city project going on. And I guess I even walked by there several weeks ago and know it got started, but would it be possible that we print up a sign basically informing everybody what it is? Because I walk by there every single day a few times and people ask what's going on there. I have to explain to them. Like every other project anybody does that we even do, we always have a sign of, such and such improvement project, whatever else. Is there a way that we can get with the local, get a rendering, say what it is, say paid out of Mississippi Thailand Fund, and stick it out there?
Sounds great.
I went to,
Yes, sir.
I don't know, sometime this week, we went to the Martin Luther King Park. Is there, while we're talking to signs, the sign that's, I don't know what the side street is that Dixie?
Dixie Street, yes.
Dixie Street. while we're printing a sign, is there a way that we can get another sign printed for that? All the vinyl is printed off of it. It's beautiful part, embarrassing looking sign. I don't know if we
That's
can,
It should have already been replaced.
okay. The other one, and I was trying to look for emails or my notes. Veterans Memorial down here. We got our award from FEMA. They said it's, what, $45,000 to repair. We got bids, and I think Bob Escher, correct me if anything I say is wrong, just in case. You don't have to talk, we got about $45,000 from FEMA. That's what they said the damage was. We put out for bid months ago, maybe last year. I think the cheapest bid was 95 grand. So we rejected all bids and decided that we're gonna try to do self-performance. Basically, we sub out all our own work, use some in-house labor to try to get to the $45,000 price tag. I guess my problem is, since it's been months, I think the answer that FEMA gave us was, y'all can do it and give us the receipts, which would mean that Waveland is responsible for, Waveland will be responsible for making sure we procured everything right, had the right bids, whatever else. After thinking about it, in trying to spend, to save money of $45,000 by doing it in-house, could end up being a disaster quick. If we don't procure something right, we lose all of our funding for it, and basically we just did the project for free. With that being said, I think at this point, I think we need to really discuss about going back out for bid, getting bids again, using the $45,000 we have, figuring out what the rest of it is, and just getting the project done. You know, it's Memorial Day is going to come and pass before we can even get back bids, but basically saying, hey, City of Waveland, us taxpayers are just going to eat the money that we're not allocated by FEMA and just go in, bid it back out. I don't know what everybody else's thoughts is, but I think that would.
Well, we actually have a meeting with Diane Sager tomorrow at 1:30 to get an update on all of our FEMA projects. So I can certainly get you a better answer then. And we can get some more money added on top of that with, as far as mitigation goes, like they did the pier. Not extending it out any further, but doing it quicker and doing it the right way.
All right.
So we'll know tomorrow at 1:30.
Okay, I didn't know FEMA worked like that. I figured that 45 was a pretty hard number, but if y'all want to try to do that, if that doesn't work, I personally don't think that self-performing is going to be a good plan for Waveland to do. So just bidding it back out and
Why not?
going it back, I'd prefer to do that, but
I'm just not sure how much we can do in-house.
no, it's going to
So
be.
you're gonna be dealing
the
with
most of-
contractors.
We're gonna have to be dealing with contractors anyway, where you might be able to get better pricing for individual jobs. There is stuff that we can do in-house, you know, laying sod, but even so much so, even if you laying sod or putting together lighting, I'm sure we can probably do in-house, but at the end of the day, having a turnkey project would probably just be simplest and probably most secure and just go do what the price tag is. So, that's all my Alderman comments.
All right, sir, thank you very much. Alderman Ward 2, Mr. Richardson?
Yes, sir. And this question is for Bo. Trying to find out if we have any kind of update on where Lombardo stands with his schedule on his grass cutting. I have ridden the city, and in particular my ward specifically, there's not a ditch been touched in my ward, if maybe 10% of them. So I'm just wondering where we stand with this, because the city is not looking real good at this time.
Bobby, on those, when he signed the contract 2 weeks ago,
About a week and a half,
Yeah, the day before our last meeting, I want to say.
yeah.
2 weeks.
So he started Coleman
Told him
Avenue,
Monday.
he cut Coleman, he cut Central, cut Waveland Avenue, cut the cemetery, the parks, and the highway. Last week, he cut, Faith Street area, from Faith Street, Highway 90 all the way to, Nicholson. up to McLaurin. This week, he was supposed to start again back on Cole. As for streets in your ward, he haven't given me an answer on that yet.
All right, yeah, because it seems like there's a lot of hitting and missing going on.
Now, we do have Chris that's
Chris-
monitoring that, right?
Chris talked to him daily.
Okay. Is he keeping up with a list of?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
All right, but that's all I had. I just wanted to make sure somebody's on top of it, because I don't want them to get so far behind that they're playing catch up constantly. Thank you. That's all I have.
All right, Bobby, thank you. Alderman Ward 3, Mr. LaFontaine?
Yeah, I just got one other thing. The cemetery, Mayor, I know we've, it's something that we've talked about for quite a while. Did we ever get all of the grave sites surveyed? And I know you had even mentioned one time about having somebody go out and do some like ground sensor type stuff to make sure that we don't have any spots that has burial sites that's not marked.
No, we haven't made any progress on that, but I do think we need some GPR out there, because there are people that's buried and doesn't have a headstone or any grave markings. But there was a Eagle Scout that was marking all the graves. Now, I think he's made pretty good progress with that on a separate map, so I can get that for y'all, where he's at so far.
And then also the roads and stuff. What do we look like on roads? Do we need gravel and stuff on those roads, or what kind of shape are
We
the roads
actually
in?
need to build a bow, and you can
Section
answer
in the
that.
middle.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna fill that in and put a milling on top of it.
Even the big round, the circle?
We've been great to see what happens. If it needed, we're gonna go ahead and put milling on it.
Okay.
Yeah, that milling that was taken up from grinding the streets, I think would be a,
And then one other thing, I know this has been talked about for years as well. Do we actually have like a policy or a procedure manual on, how to get a plot
Yeah.
reserved? And
Yeah.
we have a manual and all
Yeah.
on it, and
yeah, it's all goes through the building department. And they keep up with it. Josh, in fact, you can speak to that. Thank you, Bill.
but I think it's important though that we get go ahead and get surveyed and see what, because I know we're doing that new section off to the back. I mean, I think we need to go ahead and lay it out and figure out what kind of layout we're gonna have, and go ahead and start assigning, plots and stuff. And another thing that was talked about is, maybe put, like a sign on the front saying, this section is
That's right.
section A, section B, section C, and then number it from there, like A1, A2, whatever.
Those roads are marked in there,
Yeah, there's some signage in there now. It needs to be
But how
updated.
do you keep up with the plots? Do you assign them like numbers, like
Yes.
plot A1 or?
Yes.
You do?
There's sections, we have aerials that we look at, and actually, when we receive applications, we file it that way.
Okay,
So, and the ordinance, it says you have to have permanent coping within 30 days of the application. If they don't do that, then it can revert back to anybody that applies. So I make a point that when somebody applies for a plot, make sure the application shows designated area, they have permanent coping, meaning concrete, something that's gonna last
okay.
time, and then, the signs need to be updated and some.
Yeah,
gravel.
because, over the years, and I'm talking over the last 30 some odd years I've been here, but I know at one point, Public Works kept up with it, and then the police chief kept up with it for a while, and then after he left, it fell on the fire department to do. But, so I'm glad it is where it is, but I do know somebody that does GPR that we can probably reach out to and see how much it costs.
Well, Mayor, one time years back, we did have a cemetery committee that met with the chief out there, and they plotted all the graves that was out there.
Yeah, that probably needs to happen again, being honest with you.
I think the last we had was Hancock Historical Society in '08. That's
Yeah.
what I had in the file. Everything else has been kept, applications, where we kind of have a paper copy of everything and designate it that way. So,
Yeah.
yes, for sure.
Okay.
You don't hear me?
No, I just figured it's gonna pick up better on those mics than that one.
That
Just
was
for-
all I had,
Just
Mayor.
for everybody.
Thank you, Josh. That's it, sir?
Yes, sir.
All right, sir. Ward 4?
Yeah,
Mr.
Mayor, I
Fielder?
have one thing, an update on Nicholson Avenue.
Thank you. Bo? I just asked him about
It
that.
will be done Friday. Today they did Marcus, St. Joseph. Tomorrow they're gonna start on Sharon. Once they finish Sharon, they come and finish Nicholson. Monday they pulled out all the muck. Tuesday they had laid up, I think it was a 3-inch base. So Friday they could come and finish.
They replaced those old, clay pipes that was,
We replaced that about 3 weeks ago.
okay.
Now, were they going back with concrete or we
No,
going
sir,
back with
we're back
blacktop?
asphalt. I think it's a 12-inch, they said it'll be about 12 inches thick.
Okay, I just hope it holds if we get another storm to wash across the road.
So,
What about Margie?
Margie's, I think is on the,
I mean, while they was doing Sharon, it just seemed like they'd do it while he was right there.
well, John told me that they would start through there, and then next week, they're gonna start the annex area. I'll get with him tomorrow and see if we can get Margie done.
That was on the list, right?
I don't know right offhand.
Double check and make sure. If not, just let me know.
Thank you, Bo.
All right, anything else, Charlie?
That's it, Mayor.
All right, sir, thank you very much. All right, public comments, Mr. Thurloff?
Good evening, gentlemen. Ms. Mayor. A comment, a little bit, Alderman, Jeremy Burke, in regards to the Veterans Memorial. You don't have people in-house to bring that back up to what it was when it was first done. You have tremendous amount of structural work, damage done out in the, point of that. You've got riprap that needs to be replaced. You have sheet piles that need to be replaced. That is why you have a bid of what you have. I don't know who estimated it the first time for you, but you didn't have the correct people. Morelli is a contractor here in town, and he always gives you a good competitive bid on demo and dirt work and whatnot. I would start off with involving him. D&A is the contractor now that is doing the beach replenishment for the county. They have $1.5 million contract with the county right now. You can negotiate with them also, or involve them in developing a repair for that. They have people that are more than capable of accomplishing what needs to be done. And get a committee together and get a set of documents and put it out for bid. Those two contractors are a great resource for helping you put some documents together, along with the civil engineers in this area. You've got 3 right here within a stone's throw of it. So that would be my suggestion on the Veterans Memorial. I pull that up quite often to get information, to get the agendas and whatnot. The city of Waveland, and you have a picture of the Veterans Memorial on that. And it is in perfect shape. It's never looked like that in the 10 years that I've lived here. That's what you've got to get it back to, though, and then maintain it. That's my suggestion. I just wanted to cover a couple things at this time, to get some updates. Back in December, we were gonna have a blighted properties hearing on the coast end, on 603 and 90. That was in the middle of December. And Malcolm, you explained to us, and me specifically in January, on why that didn't happen and what's going on because of the owner involving an attorney.
Right.
And making it a little bit more difficult.
There's a,
And that you
there's a
needed-
further update, a new update. Josh, I think in if you can stand up and talk about this, but we understand that the property is sold. And so we're no longer dealing with the prior owner. And we're just now introducing ourselves to the new owners. If you want to talk about that, Josh, as much as you know.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I hear that they're talking about demoing the property. As far as I know, I don't have any concrete permits that are pulled or anything like that.
Right.
Now, I've actually spoke to them, Mr. Bryan, week before last, when they were in the agreement to purchase that property. And they did indeed purchase it. And so,
Well, that's great. You don't have to go any further right now.
Yeah.
As far
I
as
think that's good news.
I mean, there's people in the audience that might want to go
Yeah.
a little bit further with it, but that's fine with me. We just
Right.
hadn't had an update
Right,
since the end of December.
right.
The
They,
other item,
just to clear that up. So originally, like you said, I updated and told you that the reason that we stopped the proceedings was because they had an attorney. We came to an understanding we were going to wait, take a pause on that, and look at how we could proceed with the property. I think you pointed out the fence was down in the back. Someone did. I think you did. And that still has to be corrected. But when we found out it was under contract and it appeared that this contract was actually going to go through, we decided to go ahead and wait and deal with the new owner. They recently closed with, it seems like we only found out a couple of weeks ago.
2 weeks ago.
And so we're trying to give them an opportunity to get their feet up under them and then come to have a meeting to discuss the future plan with it.
I'm
So-
very excited to hear that.
Yeah, we
Me
are
too.
too.
New
Me
owners
too.
involved.
We are too, because it did not appear that we were moving in
A good
a
direction.
positive
Yep.
manner with the other owner.
I'm sure it will move
It will.
Yeah,
timely now. In
We've-
this economy, and
Yeah.
since they're making that investment.
yeah, it's a
now.
significant investment. We don't know what the amount is because that's not our business, but
Yeah.
they're aware of the fact that they've bought a problem that exists, so it's not like they're thinking it's all good to go.
Very good. And
Yep.
Just real quickly, Mr. Mayor, a while back, a resident asked what was going on with the old Rite Aid, because it was obvious that lights are on, they're on 24/7 now inside. They've done a lot of work with the existing landscaping and picking it up.
Yeah.
They've done a little bit of repair and striping out in the parking lot. Do you have any information now on what?
The only information I have, and I don't know this to be true and accurate, it's hearsay on the street. But from what I understand, Family Dollar Store is moving in there.
You know different, Josh, anything about it?
I was gonna stand up and say I don't know anything different. McKesey and I, before she left, went out there and did a little investigation, but they're just sprucing it up.
Yeah.
There hasn't been any permits pulled or anything.
And none of the work that they did, I think I went with you that day,
Require a permit.
required a permit. Yeah, it was just painting, things like that.
Oh,
Yeah.
It's just obvious that something's going on.
Yeah, unfortunately,
That's what I understand, but
we can't make them
Yeah.
tell us until they reach a spot where they're applying for a permit or applying for some kind of occupancy, through zoning, that sort of thing.
like I say, I don't know that to be true, it's just
Yeah.
from what I was told.
But it's a positive, it seems like a positive sign.
It is.
Well, the property hasn't changed hands, to your knowledge, and we know who, I don't, but
We don't,
the city knows who the property owner is.
we know who's listed on the land records. We don't know if there's been any change that has not been recorded yet. Yeah,
Well, an inquiry to the,
right.
to the owner would, he might be very willing to meet with you.
Yep.
Back at the meeting of February 1, we were told that Bob Barber and Associates,
Mhm.
Orion, that did the economic development plan
That's
for
right.
Highway
Highway 90.
90,
Yep.
was going to make a presentation and that a workshop would be scheduled. Do we?
It's going to be, in fact, I spoke to him yesterday, and so he wants to make that presentation to the board. So it's just a matter of scheduling. So he is at that point, so he's ready to schedule one, that's all.
likely will be in May,
Yeah,
likely.
kinda, I'm excited about that as well.
And just the final item, well, the last item I have on this, and then I have a question for you on an agenda item, planning and zoning. But the other item that I just wanted to run by everybody was the container homes. We're well into the 90-day moratorium on developing an ordinance.
Yes, and I'm actually probably gonna present something in the second meeting of May, is my
Very-
plan.
Very good.
Yeah.
And then the question I had is on the planning and zoning item. Will the audience have an opportunity to ask some questions when that comes up on the agenda, or do we have to take care of it under public comment? What we have to say?
It depends. I mean, if you have a question, I mean, if everybody has a question, no, we don't have time for all that. But if you have questions, I'll entertain that, Mr. Brian.
Very good. Thank you, John.
All right, thank you. All right, Miss Lori, and I'm not gonna try to pronounce your last name. Who? Oh, there you are. Okay,
Winklehay.
In regards to number 9, what Brian was referring to on the appeal for the removal of the protected live oaks, can we make a comment now on
Yes.
that?
I
yeah, you
think
can.
You
I
wanna
mean,
do
if
that
you
now?
want to.
You wanna wait till it comes up?
Well, it's coming up right now. If y'all want, if you want to just give it a second
Sure.
and let it come up under that item, if you don't mind. Thank you, Miss Lori. Miss Brenda McComb?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have several things that I want to question about. The first one is number 14. I'm not going to get into this, I won't get into discussions on or anything. I just want to make a suggestion when this is discussed, when the motion is made. Explain how the people that are going to be affected by this change, how they are going to be notified. As an election commissioner, I know come November, it is going to be chaos. People that are used to voting in one precinct, and, you know, we have to tell them if they don't know, no, you're now in precinct 4, and no, I'm not, that's not my council, okay? How are we gonna let these people know? Are we gonna send out letters to them? Or is it just gonna be publicized in the paper, or how's it gonna be?
Well, we will, No,
This is just
go
something
ahead.
that, when the time y'all discuss this, questions that I would like to hear answered, okay?
that's right.
Can I
Also-
answer at that time when it comes up?
Yeah, yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
And also about the, it states here about the designating the wards, the polling places for each ward. Now, that is for when there's a county or state election or a national election, right? Because when it's municipal, it's gonna all be at one location, correct?
Right, like it's
Okay, I
always been.
just wanted to
Yes.
clarify this. Okay, that's all on that. As far as the mowing was concerned, that Bobby was questioning over the phone, it's horrible. It is horrible. They said that Central got done. Well, the eastbound side is not done. They may have done the westbound side, but they did not do the eastbound side. The streets coming off of Central, they're snaky. You can't get out and walk in the evenings afraid that snakes are gonna come out of the grass. Okay?
Bo, would you take notes on this so you
Something needs
can
to
talk
be
to
done
Mr.
fast,
Lombardi about
okay?
those particular
This
streets?
was supposed to be a quick, easy fix, and
Right.
obviously it's not. Okay, that's the second thing. Jeremy, you were talking about the extra trash cans. $12 a year. Is that just for the first year, or is it gonna go up after the first year? I've been told that it will go up immensely after the first year for a second can.
I can just go tell you, because I had the solid waste contract, for the whole contract as a whole, it was, they cap it at, I think, a 5% CPI, which we've never had 5. This year, the contract wouldn't expire, I think the CPI for whatever the consumer price index,
Right.
whatever line was probably 7 or 8. There's a cap for 5%, but like the cans are not gonna necessarily though it's procured in the contract, if this is the price, one actually goes and gets the can directly from Coastal
Right.
Environmental Services. So at most, that's a question for them. In my head, the most it would go up would probably be the 5%.
Well, that's a question that several people, I know,
Yeah.
I was at a meeting last night, and several people were questioning about that. And I wanted to bring that up now. The, final thing. Mr. Mayor,
Yes, ma'am.
you assured myself and several other people that there would be a public hearing on all of this before.
On the maps?
On the rezoning of, redrawing of it. We did not have that.
Well, we had, now, I was out sick last time, so at the last meeting, wasn't there a public hearing on it then?
I listened
But we-
to it on the,
No?
on YouTube, and I did not hear, I heard the presentation that was made by
That was,
the people that do this, but there was no actual input from the public. And that's what you told us, Mr. Mayor, that there would be we would be able to have input on this.
Yeah, and look, we're not voting on this tonight. So-
According to this, number 13, you
Well, I
are,
understand that's on the agenda,
okay.
but because of that very reason that you
Okay.
just said, because we want the public input, we
But I
invite
mean,
all
I
the
know
time.
this has gotta be done by the first.
Well, we do have to do it in a
I mean, it's
hurried
got to
manner.
go to the county by the
Right.
first, so.
We have enough
it's gonna
time
be
to-
done fast.
Yeah, yeah, and I think we have, Ms. Allen's is here, Mr. Parker's here, and Ken Highland's here, so, and they're the ones who plug the numbers in, so that's why they're here, so.
And most people, I mean, I've seen the map, the new one and all, but most people here, they have no idea unless they go
No.
over here and look at this.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's
And I
right.
hope you're feeling better.
Thank you.
Thank God.
Yeah, I would have loved it, my ride in the helicopter over to Oshner, but not that early in the morning. And not that way. Not laid out on the stretcher anyway. So thank you, Ms. Brenda. All right, Mr. Mark, is your comments the same as Ms. Laurie's? Okay, you want to answer it at the, okay, thank you. All right, blighted property, Mr. Haydell, registered agent of Haydell Properties, 209 Highway 90, the old Sleep King. Josh, can you give an update, or Malcolm?
I can actually, but if Josh will come to the podium. So, we have been trying to contact Mr. Haydell. He has the building at 209 Highway 90, also known as the former Sleep King. Josh has, as you know, has already done an inspection in both interior and exterior. The building itself is not, I guess you'd say, so dilapidated that it has to be demolished, but it does definitely need significant repair to the front. There are some issues too with some roof repairs. But today, I was able to make contact for the first time with one of the attorneys Mr. Haydell has, and he got Mr. Haydell to contact me. And Josh, you don't know this because I'm just looking at a text, and I'm gonna read what he sent to me at 6:23 p.m. I told him it was on the agenda for tonight. Hi, Mr. Jones, this is Mike Haydell, owner of the building at 209 Highway 90. The building is structurally sound but does require repair to the synthetic stucco. He's talking about the front. I assure you that this will be done as soon as possible. Thank you sincerely, Mike Haydell. That's a nice comment, but we've been talking about this for a while. So I think what I would request is that since he's now in communication with us, which is not something, I don't know if you remember this, we started off, he met with Josh, he gave Josh access, Josh went and did an inspection, and then when we tried to follow up on what repairs needed to be made, the communication ended, as I recall.
Right.
Is that a fair statement?
Supposed to get a contractor to get the repairs done.
Right.
Pull a permit.
Didn't hear anything else. So we went ahead and got more aggressive, did our letters, set the hearing, and so we're here at this point. So what I'd like to do is to go ahead and give Mr. Haydell, since he has communicated with us, until the next meeting, to go ahead and come forward with a plan. And if he doesn't give us a plan that's reasonable and is acceptable to the code office, that we move forward with the next steps. So,
I guess I have two questions, and one I guess is
Yeah.
more and I don't know if Josh would know it, might have to get with, Dave's not here. The sign that is still up there, do we have any ordinance zoning that if, like, let's say a business is closed, is not operational for 6 months, a year, that they have to remove the sign? I don't know if that's in our zoning or not. It just seems like a logical room.
Do you know? I think
Well,
I
And
think
if
I know.
not, I think that should be a logical rule that we should adopt.
Off the top of my head, and from our sign ordinance, if it's intact and the cabinet is enclosed properly, which it's not,
Yeah.
so it's in violation currently.
Yeah.
But if they do, board it up or complete the cabinet to where it's not ugly and a
Yeah.
problem,
Well, let's not call it ugly. The point is, if it's in disrepair,
Yeah.
then it has to be repaired, and it's in violation as it exists. So that's gonna be
Yeah.
one of the issues we're gonna take up with, the gentleman. But I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll send to you what I know to be in your zoning ordinance, the sign provisions that deal with disrepair signs.
And then I guess,
And then we can decide after you review it if y'all wanna update it or expand upon it.
and then I guess the other thing, having communication with them is great.
Yep.
And I understand, I think Josh's original interpretation that it should be able to come down, they seem to think that it shouldn't, that they can just repair it. I don't know if Josh
You talking about the
still,
sign or the building?
the whole building.
Well, let me.
I'm about to say, like, I'm still to the point that we still just go declare Blight and put the ball completely in their court. Because frankly, they're not gonna do anything with it until we go say, we're gonna take it down. I truly don't believe they are. They haven't done anything with it in, 17 years? So what makes us think we're gonna start doing it now? You don't just say, oh yeah, I gotta remember to repair that building. So,
Well, what the notice says is that, that's the worst case scenario, is that we can get the building demolished, but what he's talking about is requiring it to have repairs done to it. And I mean, they have to have a building permit pulled by the next meeting before you guys vote on that to be done, whether it be demolished or whether it have repairs done to it.
Right.
The sign, I think, should meet that.
Yeah.
The sign, the building, and then when we issue the permit, when it's a code compliance issue, you got 30 days to get it compliant, basically.
But
It's,
lem- but
it's
let me ask this.
difficult to adjudicate, I'm sorry, Shane, but it's difficult to adjudicate the property for demolition unless it meets certain standards, and one of them is being structurally unsound and subject to collapse. And it's very difficult. Josh has not said that. We've talked about this. It is not at that point yet. Now, I will say this, that our intent is to go ahead and to move forward with, I don't really wanna play my hand at this point. I wanna wait and see what his response is, but, our intent is to go ahead and have them be responsive at this next meeting, and then we'll see what their plan is. And if it's not real, then we'll take further action. We'll talk about that
I mean,
then.
I would say, it's up to y'all, but I would say a permit should be pulled by the next meeting, if not, then.
That's possible too, but you know, the other thing is, people pull permits and don't do anything.
yeah.
That's why they have 30 days.
Yeah.
That's why I bump it up to 30 days. Typically, you have 6 months, but if it's a code
Yeah.
compliant issue, you got 30 days.
That's right.
Or it goes back on the agenda for.
Right. You know, and I want you to understand that if we decide to do something on this, what's entailed? Okay, so the first thing is we'll have to adjudicate it, okay, as subject to repair. Then we'll have to hire a contractor to go in there and tell us what needs to be done for the repairs and take bids like we do. And then hire somebody and then pay them to go do the work, then put the lien against the building, and then it goes to the tax sale. None of that will happen, tax sale will not happen this year, because that's late August. I mean, it's possible we can make it happen by then, but probably
Probably
not
not.
likely. So we would be out our money up until the tax sale the next year. And of course, we'd get our money back because nobody's gonna let that building sell for whatever the lien would be, but, you know, it's gonna be a fight. So, let's see, he made a good faith effort, you know, apparently when I contacted his lawyer, it stirred him up enough to call back, cause he didn't call back, Josh or, Hannah, as I recall, so maybe we got something going, let's see what happens. If he lets us down, I know where we go next, at the next meeting, and like I said, we'll talk about that then, all right? I don't wanna make a threat, you know, unless it's something we're gonna carry forward.
Well, you answered my question, cause it
Yeah.
was based on, most of them, we typically either demo or go do,
Right.
clean the yard or whatever. This is a whole different
Right.
That's right.
circumstance, so.
It is very
The
different.
steps that you, outlined there answered that.
Right, and there's also the possibility, and we don't do it often, but there's also the possibility to go to city court. This is owned by a corporate entity, but I've done some research and we can pursue the corporate entity through that city prosecution. And you know, when you have somebody having to come before the court and they're wondering if they're gonna get a fine and potentially incarceration, it changes things. Not saying we're gonna go there, but it's an option.
All right, good deal.
All right,
All right, so let's move on to 1939 Sawyer.
Before we do, Mayor, Tim,
Do we need a vote?
on that, motion that I proposed?
No, sir.
Okay, so,
To move it to to the second meeting?
so just to restate what I said is, we're gonna go ahead and, the proposed motion would be to give the owner until the next, meeting to, propose a plan to the code office and have it ready for presentation at the meeting, first meeting of May.
That's exactly
For
what I was gonna
reconstruction,
say.
yes.
Burke moves.
I'll second.
All right, we'll vote that motion. Ward 1,
Yes.
Ward 2, Mr. Bobby, can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, Ward 3, Mr. LaFontaine,
Yes.
and Ward 4, Mr. Piazza.
Yes.
All right, thank you. Motion passed.
All right, the next one, can I go to that one
Yes,
there?
go ahead.
Okay, the next one is 1939, and how do you pronounce that, Josh? Is that Sauer?
That's what I say, I don't know. Sayer?
I say Sawyer.
Sauer? How do you say it, Bobby? I mean,
Sauer.
Charlie?
Sour, that's the way
Sour.
I always
Sour.
pronounced it.
And the property owner is listed as Trampus Ladner. According to the investigation that Hannah did, and she did quite a good job on this, she found out that unfortunately Mr. Ladner passed away. And, they attempted notification to Mr. Ladner and attempted to telephone, Mr. Ladner. And all of the telephone numbers we had listed on our notification we got from the police department. And, we were unsuccessful. So I met with Hannah and Josh, and we're gonna go ahead and publish the notice in the newspaper. And then we're gonna bring it back before the board. What meeting do we say, Hannah? May 18th? Yes. Apparently, Mr. Trampus Ladner passed away 2019, age 46.
Wow.
Yeah. Anyway, he did have a Pass Christian address. I'm gonna do, some, checking around over there and see if I can get some help to see if anyone knows about potential relatives for that property. So we'll have to carry that one forward till the May 18th meeting.
Okay, thank you.
You have a motion on that one?
I'll give a motion.
Okay.
Burke seconds.
All right, we'll vote. Excuse me. Ward 1, Mr. Burke.
Yes.
Ward 2, Mr. Richardson.
Yes.
Ward 3, Mr. LaFontaine.
Yes.
And Ward 4, Mr. Piazza.
Yes.
Thank you.
This one is not on the agenda, but I'd ask the board to allow the agenda to be amended to talk about, is it 805 St. Joseph, Josh?
Yes.
805 St. Joseph. This is one that's been a recurring issue, and I promised the neighboring landowner that we would talk about that tonight. So could I ask that we amend the agenda to include 805 St. Joseph?
I'll move.
Burke seconds.
All right, we'll vote that. Ward 1, Mr. Burke.
Yes.
Ward 2, Mr. Richardson.
Yes.
Ward 3, Mr. LaFontaine.
Yes.
And Ward 4, Mr. Piazza.
Yes.
Okay. I had spoken to the adjacent landowner, Anita Johnson, or at least I communicated with her by text. I was unavailable on Monday, was not able to follow up with her on Tuesday, but we did speak tonight. The situation with this one is similar to the previous one. The owner is deceased, and we have been trying to determine who a potential owner is. We've done all of our due diligence. We cannot find anybody else. So at this point, I would ask the board to go ahead and let's move forward with this one and solicit the contractor to go ahead and demolish. I don't know if you remember this, but this is the one that has the shed, if you can call it a shed, what's a remnant of a shed next to the container homes. And so I would ask the board to go ahead and authorize the solicitation for the contractor so we can move forward.
Burke moves that
I'll
we,
second.
All right, we'll vote that. Ward one, Mr. Burke.
yes.
Ward two, Mr. Richardson.
Yes.
Ward three, Mr. LaFontaine.
Yes.
And Ward four, Mr. Piazza.
Yes.
Thank you.
We're gonna continue, I'm gonna run another ad just to be on the safe side for the unknown heirs at law of the decedent, just to see if anyone appears. But Hannah came up with a pretty good idea. She's gonna check the tax records to see if there's any record of who's actually paying the taxes on the property. And don't forget, Hannah, I want you to do the same thing on the Trampus-Ladner property too. I don't know,
All right.
if you don't have any questions back there, you're good? Thank you.
All right, moving on, number 9 on the agenda. Motion to approve a request from Mr. Kenny Monte to appeal the protected tree ordinance according to the newly adopted ordinance.
I'll move.
I'll second.
All right, discussion on number 9.
Mayor, Mr. Monty is here represented by Zach Butterworth. He'd like to come forward and just give a little short statement. Sure.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor,
Hey, Mr. Zach.
Madam Clerk, Mr. Alderman, Mr. Jones.
Hey, Mr. Butterworth.
Pleasure to be here with you tonight. Commend you on your county docket, and particularly the $2 million.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's great.
Yeah,
It's like old times with you
Yeah,
here.
yeah.
It's really,
Yeah.
it's pretty big.
yeah, that's big.
Zach, we have, by the way, before us all, and it'll be part of the record made tonight, your letter of April 19, 2022, addressed to the mayor and the alderman, myself.
I have a copy of that entire package, and if I could just offer it, to be attached to this file.
Yes. Sure, we'll make it part.
Yeah, that'll just be my copy for the record.
Yep.
Furnished everybody with a copy of that. Excuse me for a minute, we're having a very difficult time hearing this.
I think there's some more room up front. Like the mic's up here's not working that well. Let's see. That mic. That'll reach us.
So let me ask you this, who are you having trouble hearing?
I'm having trouble hearing too, because I wear hearing aids. So,
Who are you having trouble hearing? The person at the podium? Okay. all
okay,
right.
I'm
Let's-
sorry.
Let's try
I'll
that.
do better. I'm trying to do a
As
little
far as it
better.
goes, it's
That's as far as it gets.
stretched out.
For the record,
Don't worry. No.
Everybody
Yeah,
here
Josh,
now?
Don't worry about it.
for the
Josh.
record, I'm here representing Mr. Kenneth Monte, who, as stated in my letter and exactly what the mayor just said, is here seeking a permit to cut down 2 oak trees. Let me first say this, he is very mindful of the fact that these issues can be very contentious. And secondly, that, there is it's kind of a policy decision for the board. You have to balance between development or redevelopment of the city. Hopefully, with development, you get more tax dollars, which helps fund the city, and the protection of the environment, not just trees, but all kind of things, whether people are dumping chemicals in your ditches. So those policy issues come here, and they kind of clash in front of this board. And so with that in mind, he asked me to come speak on his behalf. It's in that spirit that we're appearing here tonight, and we're glad to answer any questions that come from anyone. So what's this about? He purchased a lot on Hoffman Lane. Everybody knows where Hoffman Lane is. It runs parallel to Nicholson Avenue. He has actually purchased, the first lot was 58 by, I think, 97 feet. And then there's a second lot right behind it, which he recently purchased through a tax sale. It pretty much was a blighted lot. And if there's ever one lot that needed to be cleaned up, it would be that. And it was part of the old Longo property where they had the freezer plant. And apparently, for whatever reason, they haven't paid the taxes on it.
So that, the only way out for that, on that road is out to Central or through the lot that he purchased in front. So he wants to build a house, and he has configured, or he has plans that I've attached to the package. And because of the setbacks, which I believe are 25 feet from the road to the front porch, and on the sides would be 12 feet. And this lot is only, it's 97 feet long, 50 feet wide. And if anybody's had a chance to drive by there, you'll see that there's one fairly blighted tree that is not in contention, because both arborists, both the city arborist and the arborist that represented Mr. Monty have agreed that that tree is pretty much toast. So that one needs to be taken out, although it's depicted in some of your photographs. But the main tree that takes up and covers the entire lot is right in the center of his lot. And of course, you could say, well, heck, why don't you just go further back and build back there? Well, number one, he was trying first to build something kind of in conformity. If you look at some of the aerial photographs we took, there are, and you get an idea all the way down to where Hoffman turns off back into Nicholson, and you'll see this kind of conformity and congruency of these houses that are built just about in similar places. So that was his first idea. But secondly, there is a bog that's recognized right behind the oak tree, which we don't know why it's holding a lot of water. He's had a pump running over there trying to drain it. I don't know whether maybe, I mean, it could be, maybe it's a spring, maybe it's a broken pipe, City of Waveland. I mean, we had those. You know, that kind of stuff happens. And so, but for whatever reason, he's actually a construction engineer. And in his opinion, the place to build it was right there at the 25-foot mark, and put it back to the tree. But that would put the tree like right through the rear of the house. So, and even if you were, according to the arborist, even if you were building driveways, you'd be damaging the roots of this tree in driving around it. Let me also say this: it's an X zone, meaning he can build on concrete, not up in the air. So that's another consideration.
Not to interrupt your train of thought.
Go ahead.
I did want to ask you a question. So I have in the application, I don't know if you can see this, this part of the application.
Okay.
And so they show one lot and it goes back 97 feet.
Right.
And change, and it's 50 feet wide. And then beyond that, they have the other part that's lot 25. But in the your letter, you have what appears to be where those two lots are combined into
They have
one.
not been combined legally.
Okay. So
They
it
have
is-
not yet legally.
It
been-
is in fact two separate lots.
It is in fact two separate
Yeah.
lots.
And you're trying to build on the.
On the front lot.
The front lot.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
So I believe that this situation falls squarely within your new ordinance, and which I commend you for. It apparently was just amended. And if you look at page 2 of the ordinance, which talks about when you first ask an opinion, if the removal is justified, I think primarily it was because of the physical characteristics of the tree. But there's an addition, the construction or other improvements to be made on the property. So that is a valid consideration for everyone. You know, can you build, if you want to build, can you build on this property? Secondly, the capital C gives the aggrieved party the right from city planning and zoning to apply to overturn their denial with the, in giving total discretion to the board. So what we're here for is this gentleman is humbly before this board asking for permission to build a $300,000 house on a lot and hopefully to be put on the tax rolls of City of Waveland within a year. And those, I haven't kept up with your millage or the taxation here, but that obviously is what funds a lot of things that go on in the city, is property tax. And so over 10 or 20 or 30 years, one house like that might make the difference in $30,000 or $40,000 to the city. But if you prohibit, let's say, 10 houses in a year, then it might make the difference in a couple $100,000 over 30 years in taxation. So what he's asking for is permission to be able to cut this tree and to haul it off. And he's also willing to do anything that needs to be done in terms of mitigation.
Let me ask another question, Zach, if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
All right, and this is probably going to be for Mr. Meggett out here. I noticed that the application is actually to cut 2 trees. I saw that the arborist had basically concurred in the recommendation to cut the 1 tree. But what did the planning commission decide? Did they decide to deny both cutting of the trees, both trees?
Yes, because
Contrary to the recommendation by their own arborist?
yes.
Okay.
Well, actually, when he talks about the arborist saying that the tree was damaged, it's not damaged. I'll read you exactly what Christian said under Stevenson.
And let's define that so the public understands. We have 2 arborists. We have Mr. Loftus, who's hired by Mr. Butterworth's client, the owner, and then we have the one that the city uses, right?
Yeah, come on. You want to get up here where you can?
Or either way.
Mr. Meggett, go to the podium so they can hear you. I forgot they can't hear you back there.
Yeah, the reason I'm standing up here so I can hear you.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'll try
My
to.
hearing aids are just not working very well.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Can you hear me okay now?
Yeah.
All right.
I read lips too.
Okay. Can you just go ahead and state what you're about to tell us about that?
Okay. This is from Christian Stevenson, and I think it's in direct contradiction of what you just stated. 2 trees are requested for removal, 316 Hoffman Street. Larger tree does not show significant damage, and I cannot justify its removal based on criteria set by the City of Waveland tree ordinance. The smaller tree, while not in poor condition, is placed in close proximity to other trees leading to competition. It is my recommendation that it be removed to improve conditions for adjacent live oaks. Now, what he's saying is that that second tree is close to some of the other oaks and it's in competition with them, but you know that there's oak trees that grow right next to each other and are fine with that. And the protected tree board, the 3 of us, when we went and looked at it, we couldn't see anything wrong with these trees. It was a matter of just moving the house back in the property, and then he doesn't need to cut down the trees. And so it went up before the planning and zoning agreed that just move the house back, leave the trees there.
What about their statement that it was going to move it into that bog area that he's talking about, that obviously low area you see in the photographs?
Well, it's my understanding what he's doing is he's
We'll get to you.
removing trees right now, and he's creating a bigger bog area back there because the water is starting to pool into these holes that he's created by digging these trees in them.
You're talking about non-protected trees?
These are not protected trees, yes.
Okay, all right. I really just want to ask you that one question. I'm gonna let Mr. Butterworth finish, and then, there's some other people I know that want to make comments that we held until that time, so we'll make sure we don't miss you. And make sure you raise your hand in case we don't recognize you.
So again, I believe that this falls squarely under your new ordinance, which gives you discretion to take whatever action you want. And granting or denying this motion, but if you deny his request, it pretty much makes these lots useless because he won't be able to build a house on those lots. So, again, you have a citizen of Hancock County is coming to the board on a very small lot. I understand that, 50 feet by 97 feet, and asking for permission to build a house and to make an investment in the city of Waveland. And I think, having been here through Camille and Katrina, you know, it's been a real job, the redevelopment of the city. It hasn't been that long ago that we were involved in an annexation that went on for years, and it was primarily on the idea that the city had kind of built out, and the idea was to try and move the city boundary lines so we would have more room for growth. Right now, what we're doing is you're trying to backfill the city, and I got to say, y'all have done a great job. I drove down here twice today and drove around, and there's a lot of construction. I don't know how many trees are being cut down or how many people are asking to cut down trees, but it does look, for instance, in that area, they called it, I like the terms he used, it's an urban forest. There's 17 oak trees like within 100 feet. And if you look at those photographs, those aerial views, you can barely see those houses right there next to Mrs. Longo for the number of trees just clustered in that one spot. And I did not misrepresent anything to the board. I said that I don't think there was any contention or there was any dispute that both arborists said cut down that one tree. And I think that's what he read, unless I didn't understand. So I think that the tree that's in dispute is the large tree that's in the middle of the lot. None of us are arborists, but I'll also say that I went out there and looked at that big tree, and the top of it is broken off. There's a big open area in the middle, and you can see that on the photographs that are furnished to you. And you can also see again, the congruency of the houses going down Hoffman Lane on that tax map that kind of shows you where the buildings are situated. Not that that's anything that's in violation of planning and zoning. It's not. It's just, what looks good. So with that in mind, I'll turn this over to whoever wants to make comments, and I'll be glad to answer any questions or have my client answer any questions. I wish, I know y'all have more bigger fish to fry here, so I'm going to move on, but I really appreciate the time before you. Thank you.
Before you step away from the podium, I just want to make it very clear, the Planning Commission has made a decision to not allow the cutting down of both trees. This is a bit unusual in that normally when their arborist, we'll call it the city's arborist that they use, recommends something, they usually follow the recommendation, but in this case, they've chosen not to follow the recommendation of their arborist to cut down the second tree. So it's clear, you're asking to cut both trees.
I
and
am.
The decision is to not allow that now from the Planning
Right,
Commission.
but again, both arborists, as I said, agreed that that smaller tree would be
Understand.
cut. I did not see and I'm not here to complain, but I didn't see the written reasons. if there were written reasons
Yeah,
given.
I need to point that out to the planning commission.
Yeah.
Mr. Meggett, can you hear me okay now?
Yes.
Okay, can you see me as well? Okay, yeah. So, it is very important that in the ordinance, it says that we have to provide a written decision or the written reason why it's being denied. And I think that's what he's talking about. I know the ordinance is new in implementation, so, but in the future, there are actually two different times we're supposed to provide written notice. One of them is when the committee consisting of the building official, yourself as the chairman, and then also the arborist, if you make a decision, you're supposed to provide written notice about that. And then when the planning commission takes it up, if they do, if it's appropriate, they need to also provide a written decision. It doesn't have to be a lot, but it needs to be a clear decision so they'll know what they're appealing from.
It was back and forth in emails to Josh. Each one of us said what our reasons were for either denying it or accepting it.
I saw that, and I think that's good, except that I think it probably needs to be consolidated in a letter. And I don't care where it comes from, whether Josh composes it, whether the planning commission does it, but it needs to be done, okay? It's not, what's the word? It's not a serious critical default here, but it just needs to be done for purposes of the future, okay?
So
Yeah.
Dave did not send any, the minutes of the meeting?
I don't know, I just know that Mr. Butterworth points out he didn't get it, his client didn't get it, so we just need to make sure it gets done going forward in the future. Let's go ahead and hear from the others that wanted to
Maybe this
speak.
gentleman's got a copy of it, written
Yeah.
reasons.
I can address this immediately then.
Yeah.
Try and
Well,
find
but
it.
I never did get them. If there
Yeah.
are, I'd like to make them part of the record right now.
We'll do
because,
that, we'll do that.
I mean, having been familiar with this board for a number of years, one of the biggest lawsuits this board's ever been in, and maybe the mayor will remember, was something similar to this, where the city failed to follow its own rules.
Yes, I'm well aware. That's why I'm being very careful about that.
Yeah.
All right, let's hear from the people that are coming to the podium and the ones who wanted to be recognized. And I know I saw you back in the back, so the two of you back there, so we'll do that.
I just want to address a couple of things that were stated right now.
All right,
Mr. Jones, Dr. Christensen is not KWB's arborist or the city's arborist. He is a member of the board. He is a member of Mississippi State Extension.
I'm well aware of his capacity, but
So I just want to get that clarified, because it's
Right.
been stated a couple times now that he is KWB's arborist and the city's arborist. He is not. He does not have a dog in this fight.
he is, as it says in the ordinance, and we made this real clear because you wanted this in there. It says that the decision would be made, the initial decision, by the building official in consultation with the chairman of the Planning and Zoning Board and a certified arborist from the Mississippi Extension Service or such other licensed arborist as the city shall designate. So, as I understand it, currently, this is the one that the city has designated, Mr. Christensen. So, he's not, he's there for the city. That's the way it is.
That's the way I interpret it.
Yeah.
The city's not paying him. KWB isn't paying him.
Who is KWB?
Keep
Keep
Waveland
Waveland
beautiful.
Okay, thank you, I'm sorry.
We're having a meeting, as a matter of fact, we're having a meeting, a monthly meeting
Okay,
at Sugar Pop this Saturday at 10 o'clock. I'd love to have you there.
okay.
And all of the aldermen also. I invited last month for you to
Caution
attend.
them about that being a violation of the meeting law.
Let's do this, let's stay on point, but I'll
Yeah.
take the comment.
Yes,
Yeah, we need to move on.
let's stay on point here.
All
I
right,
need to move on too.
yeah.
I went to, because this particular address and this situation came up very quickly and is moving very quickly. I went to the website to pull up planning and zoning calendar, schedule for meetings. In the past, it was the third Mondays of the month.
Yep.
By the past, I mean prior to COVID during COVID and whatnot. It has gotten scrambled, if I might use that word. The schedule has, in the last year, year and a half. I couldn't find the schedule on the website. I got a hold of Dave Dratz.
Hold that thought for one moment. Mr. Meggett, have y'all moved the regular meeting date?
The meetings.
I'm getting to that.
Have been scheduled for the year, and it used to be the third Monday of the month,
Yep.
but now it, like, the last meeting was the 11th, the next meeting is the 23rd
Okay.
of May.
So I'm trying to figure out how, this is probably all useful information, but how is it relevant to this particular application?
If you let me complete, I'll.
All right, go
I'll
ahead.
bring it out.
Okay.
So I got a hold of Dave Dratz.
Uh-huh.
He says, yes, he said, since the previous city clerk has left, I haven't been able to get in to make some adjustments of the, he said, I will print
Get into where?
the website.
Oh, the website. All right.
You never had privileges.
Okay.
He said, I'll print out a schedule for you
Okay.
for the meetings for planning and zoning for this year.
Right.
This is what I just handed to you.
Okay.
And you'll see that the application for the April meeting, the deadline for application submittal was February 11th. Excuse me. The deadline for the application submittal was March 11th.
Okay.
Planning and zoning meeting, April 11th.
Right. That no longer applies to tree applications, and I'll explain to you why. The reason that they required the month in advance was for anything that had to be advertised. These hearings and proceedings do not have to be advertised any longer. So as long as he goes ahead and gets the application in time for it to be on the agenda, which I'm told is basically the week before the meeting, it's timely and it could be put on that agenda.
All right, the meeting was just 10 days ago, of the Planning and Zoning Commission.
Yep.
You're saying that the commissioner, or the president, Jim Meggett, did not contact this gentleman, the attorney for this, for Mr. Monty, in time. We don't have the information. You aren't responding quickly. It was only 11 days ago.
I don't, what I'm saying is they didn't follow the ordinance to provide a written decision. That's what it says.
This wasn't supposed to be on the Board of Aldermen's meeting until the May 5th.
It can be on any agenda afterwards.
This is per the schedule.
I understand that is the schedule for hearings. This is no longer an advertised hearing. By the way, Mr. Frater, the people that were behind you back there, they were kind of in line. So if you can wait, we'll let them go first.
Well, that's the
Yeah.
timeframe.
Yes.
This has
Yeah.
gotten very condensed.
Yeah,
Mr. Monty has been out on the property
yep,
doing clearing and grubbing for the last 3 weeks.
okay,
I checked with the building department this afternoon at 12:47.
yep.
A grubbing and clearing permit has not been taken out on that piece of property.
Is that relevant again to this particular application? I know it's
It is
relevant.
relevant to this application because it's condensed.
Okay,
It's going very quickly.
right. I don't know if you remember this, but and I'm not trying to be argumentative, but I do want to tell you that when the board asked me to revise the tree ordinance, the number one thing that I heard was it's taking too long for applications to make their way through the planning commission. And so they asked me to go ahead and do what I could, and I found out that legally we weren't required to have advertised hearings, and I set forth a process that was vetted by the planning commission. The planning commission made several changes to the ordinance that I ultimately have drafted, and the one that is ultimately adopted was the one that the planning commission approved with their changes that they suggested. So I do think that it is condensed, and I do think it is as was intended.
I'm gonna sit down and
Yeah.
let
And then I think the lady in the back, ma'am, I don't remember, Winklehage?
Ms. Lori?
Yeah.
Malcolm, did I see what Dave gave you to look at tonight?
As far as the agenda package?
Yes,
Yeah, sure.
Come on up, Ms. Lori.
because he should have given you a written.
Let's see, that's what it is, I think.
You can go ahead if you have any comments.
I'm not a lawyer, but I do want to make some comments on some statements that he made. Hoffman Lane is pretty special. We have a nature reserve on Hoffman Lane. We have a lot that is actually 2 lots that's all wooded. People make comments of driving down Hoffman Lane because of the oak trees and how they cover some of the road. So he made the statement that there's 17 oak trees all in one area. Probably 10 of those are mine. So I love the oak trees. Also, he keeps referring to of 2 different lots. That lot is 270 feet long. And my question is, does he own both lots? He keeps saying that it's 2 separate lots.
It is on the tax map.
So his name is on both of those lots.
Yeah, but it is on the tax map, and there's a process you have to go through to do a lot combination, which I just asked that question earlier to clarify that point. It hadn't been done.
So is
Now-
that preventing him from building a house on his lots that
It
he
is not.
purposely
It is
bought?
not preventing him,
Okay.
but it also can't be ignored in the sense that the lot as it currently exists is 50 feet wide and 90-something feet deep.
Well, right, but
Right.
he owns both lots.
He does.
Even though
He does.
legally it's not, the whole entire lot is 270 feet
Right.
long. Okay.
Now, for purposes, and I think this is right, and Dave is not here, but Mr. Meggett can probably help me. For purposes of like setbacks, if you have ownership
I
of
understand.
adjacent lots under common ownership, then you can take that into account.
My next observation is this is bigger than just what that size of that lot is.
Okay.
Okay, the bigger issue, I'm nervous, I'm sorry.
Bigger issue.
Is that it is a little low back where he is, all right, but it was already holding an existing slab, all right, because he's digging it up.
Yeah, is that the slab that shows on this,
There was a factory there,
back there?
okay, and so that,
Have you saw that, right?
yeah, I mean, I live right next to it, I see it,
Okay, yeah.
so I see it.
Okay.
So there is a slab that was already there, so that land can hold a slab if he pushes back into that second area of that lot. That lot is 270 feet long.
And he would have to remove that slab to do that?
He's already in the process of doing it.
Okay.
He has his equipment, he's been out there, that slab is being removed. The bigger issue is because why it's a bog, or if it's a marshland, then it would be protected. I mean, I think the city would know about a wetland, or I'm assuming that as marshes would be protected.
Her husband told me it was a natural spring underground when they were building their house.
Right. Yes.
We thought that there was.
Right,
We are not qualified.
right. I don't know that
So-
anybody's had a wetlands designation, so we're not really talking about that at this
Yeah.
point.
So the neighbor behind us has put above a pool, a big 20-foot above-ground pool. Now, when we bought that lot, it was in the wooded area that we cleared back to would flood. Okay, but now since he has put that above-ground pool in, he floods not only his property, our property, and the property next to us, and then the property next to him. 4 properties are flooded, so much that that water came up to our back piling. And so my question, the bigger question is who is monitoring folks that are putting in dirt? I mean, when we bought that property, we walked around to Cali Lane or Cali Court, and we watched the water run off.
So-
So we thought, okay, this is good.
So let me say this, and I'm trying to, we have a whole bunch of other things on the agenda.
I
And
understand that.
your points are well taken, but they are more about drainage and about other things that need to be discussed in the code office. They're not about the trees, unless you can connect it back somehow.
It is very connected, you know,
Okay.
it very is, because he's stating that it's a bog. Well, it's a bog because there's a concrete slab and a pile of dirt that's blocking the runoff. So you're going to allow a beautiful oak tree that looks like it's about 70 years old, and it's not cut open. You ought to see the arms and the limbs on how this thing moves through the trees, you know?
Okay.
Excuse me?
Yeah, let's try to keep it to the
Yeah,
podium.
gotta
so
keep
we-
it civil, okay?
Yeah, let's go ahead.
You know, so, I mean, all of this should be kept into consideration, that he wants to talk about conformity. Well, he's not looking at the nature reserve. He's not looking at all the other properties that do have trees that are on there. He could work a driveway right through those trees, and it would be gorgeous.
Okay.
And it's just another responsibility that Waveland has an opportunity to become a green city. He wants to make it about money. Oh, you guys are gonna save 40,000 in 10 years. I mean, is this what you guys really want to be known for? I mean, people drive all over to go down Nicholson to look at the oak trees decorated with the,
Christmas lights.
the
Yeah.
stars.
Right.
I mean, so we have an opportunity to turn things around to make it to be a green. And 270 feet, he's gonna put dirt back there. He's not gonna leave that gully area low. He's gonna put dirt.
Right. That's a separate issue in terms of, Josh is gonna have to take notice of that for a drainage plan, and also, is this in the floodplain, Josh?
No,
No, you said the X zone, right?
It
Okay.
turns into one a little further down the road, I think.
So you wouldn't have,
it's an X zone,
okay,
but it's only bogged because of that pool.
yeah.
And, I mean, if we need to get all four neighbors to come and talk about that pool, because we have it drain into the front, and that, from their area, is coming into the back.
I'm not trying to foreclose you from talking about the drainage problem. I think it's very appropriate. I just don't
But
think
it-
this is necessarily the moment for it. I think you can talk to the code office separately.
But it's important because that's where he can put his house.
Okay.
The pool.
Thank you, Ms.
the
Lord.
Swimming pool, that's what I don't understand.
It's a above-ground pool.
Yeah, he didn't have anything to do with the pool.
Well, I'm not saying that he did. I'm saying the reason why the land is wet.
And it was reported to us that y'all thought it was a spring.
We're not
All right.
experts.
All right, y'all, let's stay on track if we could.
He had a pump out there trying to drain it.
Malcolm, so where are we at with this?
I think we had one more person, I think, said who wanted to speak. Gentleman in the back with the hat, I believe that was, and then Mr. Frater actually wanted to speak also.
So do I.
And you didn't ask to be recognized, but now you do. Yeah.
Good evening. I just had a couple comments or questions. So he stated that putting a driveway in would kill the oak trees, or damage or hurt the oak trees.
Who said that? Do you recall?
This gentleman.
Okay.
We have 9 large oak trees in our yard. We situated our house amongst our oak trees. We've had arborists out there, and tree specialists, whatever you want to call them, 4 times. We have our trees trimmed. We have them checked almost once a year. We have a driveway going down the middle of our yard, back to our house. We didn't put a lot of dirt in for the fact so it wouldn't hurt the trees. We've had that tree checked, that large tree. I don't remember anything being checked on the small tree, but the large tree, last time he was out there, is healthy. The property next to us, he's checked those. We've asked him to check those. They are healthy. So I don't see any reason why these trees should be cut down. They're not hurting anything. He has plenty of room where he can move his house to and build his house. We did the same thing without hurting any trees or cutting any oak trees down. I don't see the
And
reason
what
to
was
cut
your
them.
address? I forgot.
314
Three-
Hoffman.
Hoffman?
And your name again, sir?
Mark
Mark,
Winklehead.
okay, Mr. Mark.
And you're saying,
Yes.
yes, okay.
All right,
I
thank you.
forgot to ask her address, what I was
Okay.
saying, yeah,
Thank you, Mr. Mark.
okay. Okay, and now, Mr. Bryan.
Brian Frater, Planning and Zoning Board.
Just a couple of quick points. The randomness of this schedule, I addressed at the last meeting. The difference between the last meeting and the next meeting is about 6 weeks, and then the following meeting is 3 weeks. So I briefly brought it up, and I hope to have it on the agenda that we can start to straighten this out. Just some clarification of what I looked at the thing. The adjacent property to the beach has 2 trees that are pretty much right in line with the 2 trees in question, okay?
Adjacent to
And
which?
Pardon?
Adjacent to which direction, do you recall?
To the beach side.
Okay.
314.
All right.
And the owner has built the house behind it. So it looks very attractive. I'm not sure you all have a picture. I have it on my phone. And she elected to build the house as a raised house. As the gentleman alluded to, this is not in the floodplain, so Mr. Monty indicated he wanted to build it up front and that he was going to build it pretty much on grade. So I'd like you all to consider, since he presented that fact to us, that he wants to build it on grade, he did not want to go back behind the trees because, in his opinion, it wouldn't be desirable to build it on grade with the house right next door to it raised. So he would build a raised house, i.e. incurring more expense from his perspective. Am I saying that wrong?
100% accurate.
Okay. So therefore,
Must build it up higher.
right. So therefore, if you all approve this, his request, is it possible to stipulate that he must build it pretty much down on grade and not have a raised house up there?
I thought that's legal, but.
Yeah, I don't.
I'm not sure you can, but I mean,
Yeah.
I'm just going by what he said, you know.
Yeah.
My
That's
point
your
is, if he
intent,
built
build
it
on
that
grade?
way, then that counteracts what he told us about building it back.
Yeah.
So that's just a quick point. And the last point about the proximity of the arborist said something about he would allow 1 tree to go because of proximity.
Yeah.
Again, the same piece of property, and I have pictures of it. At the back of their piece of their land, they have 2 beautiful oak trees that are no more than 3 feet apart. So I'm just, you know, it is possible to have very nice oak trees in close proximity.
Yeah.
That's it.
Thank you, Mr. Bryan. All right, so we have a motion on the floor. Is anybody else we need to hear from?
Well, Ms.
Ms. Rhonda?
Ms. Rhonda,
I would like to say just one thing, real quick, brief. Rhonda Gamble,
Okay, that's
1020
it.
Daniel
Thank you.
Street. The area from the beach where Hoffman is, all the way across the tracks, down Nicholson Avenue on this side of the highway, on this side of Nicholson Avenue, the Hoffman side of Nicholson. That area in the early days of Waveland was called Oak Ridge. It was called Oak Ridge for a reason, because there were hundreds and hundreds of oak trees, live oak trees, a lot of water oaks, but more live oaks than anything else. I own a very large section of property on between Daniel and McKinley Streets. I have a lot of oak trees. I have some magnolia trees. I think that it's very important to keep as many live oak trees as we can keep. They're very important to the area. They're important, if nothing else, to the history of the area. I love my oak trees. But another thing that we need to consider is that a lot of the property in that area were originally sold in 25-foot lots. So you're gonna have a whole bunch of property where people have 2 lots. They're gonna have 50 feet. They're gonna have 75 feet. They're gonna have this problem. I've missed maybe 2 meetings in the last year, and the most time that's taken up at this podium is over this issue, and it's gonna keep happening. We need to look at it and figure out what we're gonna do in that area, because this is gonna keep happening. It's gonna keep coming up before you. So I'm not saying, tell him to cut his trees down, make him keep the trees. There are gonna be people that don't wanna get rid of any trees, and there are gonna be people that wanna get rid of all of them. I'm in the middle. I think there's mitigation written into the ordinance for a reason.
So I'm just saying to you, please consider that this entire area that we're discussing tonight, it's gonna keep happening. So just think about that and maybe revisit how we do this.
Thank you, Ms. Rhonda. Does anybody else, ma'am?
I think that was, well, Mr. Baggett, Darren.
I just wanted to make a quick point that if you okay the removal of these 2 trees, that I just want to make Mr. Monte aware of the ordinance that he will have to replace them with 9 trees. And as long as you're aware of that, I just wanted to make sure.
Thank you, Mr. Jim.
Can I, one
Yeah.
more question, though, if there are written reasons, can we put them in the record for the denial on this part?
Yes. Mr. Meggett pointed out to me that there may be some documents that Mr. Draz failed to include in the agenda package, and so I'll make sure that the complete record is there.
Thanks.
Yeah.
All right,
Did you?
we ready to vote?
Well, in fairness, normally you have the last say if you have anything you want to say, Mr. You don't need to. I don't want to encourage a lawyer to speak at all.
None of us do, none of us
I grew
encourage
up
that.
about 100 feet
Yeah,
from these trees.
okay,
And for the, maybe Charlie knows this.
Yeah.
I grew up on the corner of Central and Nicholson.
yeah,
So I was riding my bike by these lots, in 1960. And I was familiar with every house
right.
that was on that street. And, it's ironic. And went through Camille in that house and ended up on the railroad tracks.
I understand.
So that's wrong.
Okay.
Thank you, Zach.
Before. you
I
have a
didn't know they
question,
had bikes
So-
in 1960. Shane, I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead, Shane.
Go- You got a question? Because I got a question.
So 9, the mitigate, according to the new ordinance that we adopted, it's 9 live oak trees that would need to be
Replaced.
replaced.
Yes, I believe that's correct. I have the ordinance.
Is that 9 trees per tree cut down?
4 on one tree and 5 on the other.
4 on
Gotcha.
one and 5
Okay.
on the other.
Okay.
Oh, because that's the size wise. Gotcha.
Okay.
I don't know if you have any questions. I said, I think Ms. Gamble's last comment about, I did not know it was called Live Oak Ridge. But the fact of the matter is, especially the part of Waveland that's getting developed the most. Some 314 Hoffman Lane did a wonderful design drafting to keep all the trees, the houses among the trees. Through the years, we have been having to cut down a single tree here to accommodate a house on the beach. Last meeting, they had somebody came up to go accommodate for somebody, Marcus Street. This is 2 different lots. And just hearing what Mr. Butterworth said, this is 2 different lots of record. I understand that likely they're probably gonna combine them eventually, but this is 2 different lots of record. I mean, if personally it was me, I'd build 2 different houses, put an easement to the back, and you'd have 2 houses. But that being said, this is a, 4,900 square foot lot with 2 live oak trees in the dead middle of it. This is an unusable lot if you don't remove oak trees. With that being said, the mitigation issue is these 9 live oak trees that they would have to possibly replace it with could not go back on this property. It would need to go elsewhere in the city.
12,000 square feet for the lot?
So I was gonna say, yes, there's a fine line between development and situating a house. It's a 50-foot lot, and there's no more room to go either which side. Walk by this every single day. It's a beautiful wooded lot, but as it sounds, at the end of the day, it's much better commerce on there, a construction crew going there and putting new residents there than that. I'm not saying clear cut the whole thing of all the live oak trees. These are the only 2 that you're gonna touch. But, I mean, that's just I respect the planning and zoning's opinion. I just personally, I believe the new ordinance addresses to help mitigate the thing, which our previous one did not. It would basically be you cut them down and have fun with it. This one actually has, I don't wanna say a penalty, but a mitigation, just like we do wetlands.
All right, anything else before we ask for a vote?
Just to clarify, the motion was to approve a request from Mr. Kenny Monte to appeal a protected tree according to the newly adopted ordinance.
Right. And if you make that, if you adopt that motion, just to be clear, it'll be, basically reversing the decision of the planning and
Okay.
zoning commission.
And this is one other question, Malcolm, it's a legal one.
Yes,
It happened before previous council was. They have had one or two oak trees move on a parcel land. We required a bond to be put, that the bond would be forfeited if construction on the property did not happen. Do you see a way that could happen?
Is that in that, is that in the new ordinance?
Probably not.
no, I'd probably have to say no. That
Yeah.
was not something that was suggested to me to be included. I'm
No,
not-
no.
I'm not aware of that,
All right.
so.
At what point do they get mitigated?
At what point
At
do
what
they
point would it be
mitigate?
mitigated?
As soon as they, cut the trees, their obligation for mitigation begins. And, I believe in this particular case, Josh, I would recommend we just get some kind of a written understanding as to when that would occur, so there'll be no question.
We can put those in the permit.
Right.
We can give 30 days.
So when you issue the permit, you put the condition in there as to when the replacement shall occur, and work that out reasonably with them, but, and make it very specific as to how many trees, and also, how soon it will be done. Not to mention, there's a 12-month warranty, if you wanna call it, on, having to maintain those replacement trees at whatever location they're placed.
All right, so just to clarify this motion, so this motion would be to approve Mr. Monty's request, which would allow him to cut both of those trees, is that correct?
Yes.
All right, everybody understand that before we vote?
So a yes would be removal and mitigation, correct?
Yes. All right, Ward 1, Mr. Burke.
Yes.
Ward 2, Mr. Richardson.
No.
Ward 3, Mr. LaFontaine.
Yes.
And Ward 4, Mr. Piazza.
Yes.
Motion passed. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Yep.
May we be excused?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Zach. Good to see you again.
Oh, come on, Zach, stay for the
Take
grand
care.
finale. Good seeing you.
When I first started.
All right, moving on the agenda, 10. This will be the consent agenda, items A through T, as in Tom.
Can we remove, I think there was an issue with it, K and L. So I think K and then, we'll discuss it, just move K and L,
Mr.
please.
Mayor, if we can have them remove A, that's a.
K and L,
A is a duplicate of,
we can leave it on.
Yeah, just leave it
we
on.
can leave it on there, no big deal.
K and L,
Can I also
Yeah.
ask that you, remove for discussion purposes, item I?
Yes.
I'll make the motion.
All
To
right,
approve A through H, J, M through T.
I'll second.
all right. We'll vote that motion. Alderman Ward 1, Mr. Burke.
Yes.
Alderman Ward 2, Mr. Richardson.
Yes.
Alderman Ward 3, Mr. LaFontaine.
Yes.
And Alderman Ward 4, Mr. Piazza.
Yes.
Thank you. And before we move on, I would like to introduce Ms. Boucher to you. If you would, Kim, would you please stand up? This is the new comptroller, so I appreciate that.
Glad to have you on the team, gentlemen.
You don't know what you're getting into. And then Ms. Kylie, would you stand up as well? Ms. Kylie is a new receptionist, so welcome aboard.
And your new secretary.
Yeah. I've never had a secretary before.
Oh, I'm none of us.
Mayor, can I say something?
Yes, please.
So, the mayor wanted me to point out that, Ms. Boucher and, at least, I think we had one other, we had multiple applications, but we did, I believe, 2 interviews.
So we had a selection committee.
We did. And on the selection committee was Shane LaFontaine, myself, and also a lady named Charlene Kirkow, who is a CPA and auditor of multiple decades. She's very, very knowledgeable about municipal compliance when it comes to being a comptroller. She's been doing it a very long time in audits, school districts, cities, counties, acts as a comptroller herself for the cities of Moss Point, Pascagoula, does a lot of things when it comes to municipal auditing. And she was very impressed with Ms. Boucher's resume, as well as her presentation and her ability to understand what the city needed. And we think this is a very important position. And since they came, and I think that this is also important too, her family is here, her husband and her son. They'd stand up, because I think your family is a big part of it. When you hire somebody, you get the family too, and so want to recognize that they came. But anyway, you may want to point something else out, Shane. We thought we were fortunate to have a good applicant come forward.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with what you had said. You know, the auditor, you know, gave us some really high marks.
Right.
So,
Yes, we're excited.
And her first day is Friday, as I understand. Gonna hit first meeting, gonna hit the road running, right? Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you all for being here. All right, so items that were pulled off of the consent agenda was I, motion to approve an agreement between Compton Engineer.
I'll move.
All right,
Mayor, the only,
First, seconds.
okay, now discussion. Go
yeah,
ahead,
the
Mike.
only corrections on their exhibit that they attach to their contract, there's a couple of paragraphs we normally delete, and that's paragraphs portions 6, 20, and 21. And Ms. Fayard, I'll provide you with a copy of that so you can give that to the folks at Compton.
Yes, sir, thank you.
All right,
That's all the
anything else
comment I
on,
have on that,
all right, you want to vote aye?
Yes.
Okay.
as revised.
Ward 1, Mr. Burke.
Yes.
Ward 2, Mr. Richardson.
Yes.
Ward 3, Mr. LaFontaine.
yes.
And Ward 4, Mr. Piazza.
Yes.
Thank you. All right, moving on, another item that was removed, it was K. Motion approved naming Coastal Development and Construction of Pascagoula, Mississippi as the best and most responsive bid for the construction of the Public Works pole barn. So it's both schedule numbers 1 and 2 in the amount of $124,800.
Can I move? Can I move?
Yes.
Burke moves.
I'll second.
All right, the reason I took it off is the 124.80, it was in our packet, but the 73.80 that's on L, is this not the same? So we're approving schedule 1 and 2, but we also approve 73.80?
Yeah, what is that?
Let me get to that, Mr. Burke.
Because there was only one letter in our packet.
Okay.
Looks like K and L was combined. It's the same motion, just
That's what I was thinking
different
too.
amounts.
So,
Yeah, it is. I think I picked up just the Schedule A.
so what one do we need? Do we need to approve K? And if we approve K, that is already L, so we don't have to approve L?
Yeah, Bob's saying yes, just approve K. No,
All right. That was my question.
Did he just text you that just now?
I see right there. He's
Oh.
shaking his head.
Man, a
yes.
few words.
I didn't realize that he was hiding back there.
He is.
So,
All right, so we're good on K then?
you agree with that, Mr. Asher?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
All right, we'll vote K then. Ward 1, Mr. Burke.
Yes.
Ward 2, Mr. Richardson.
Yes.
Ward 3, Mr. LaFontaine.
Yes.
And Ward 4, Mr. Piazza.
Yes.
Now,
Can I have a
guess we
motion, motion to remove L?
Yes,
I'll
thank you.
second it.
All right, we'll vote that motion to remove L. Ward 1, Mr. Burke.
Yes.
Ward 2, Mr. Richardson.
Yes.
Ward 3, Mr. LaFontaine.
Yes.
And Ward 4, Mr. Piazza.
Yes.
Thank you. Anything else under the consent agenda that we removed?
Can I clarify, J remained on the consent agenda?
Yes, sir.
All right, that's the end of the consent agenda then. 11, motion to approve the docket of claims, paid and unpaid in the amount of $610,000.
Ward 2 move.
I'll second.
Okay, 996.56. All right, any discussion on the
I
docket?
have a discussion on it.
Okay,
I've gotten calls. I don't know how you do it. Which one is it? It's 1660. It's travel. 6664, travel lodging for Mike Smith, travel lodging for Bobby Richardson. What was this for?
That was for the legislative reception in Jackson where we come back with the $2 million.
The legislative reception?
It was, they call it a reception. That was a name that Senator Moran used specifically.
Was this the crawfish boil reception?
Well, it was a reception that had crawfish there, yes.
Because I guess my problem with it, and it slipped by me 2 meetings ago, there was per diem paid for this,
That's right,
and there's hotels paid for this,
that's right.
but no necessarily meeting except a reception.
No, we met with the legislators at the reception.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to speak on that.
Go ahead, Mr. Bobby.
During this time we was there was quite a meeting. It was just like the legislative reception at the end of the year. There's no way to talk to one individual person if you go to the Capitol. We spoke to 7 individuals at that particular social gathering, and that's the only way you get things done.
That all
So-
agree with giving us the money.
Every one of them agreed to giving us the money, but I would gladly give the $190 back, but I don't think we need the 2.5 if we're going to do that.
Well, and look, as you know, and everybody I think up here knows, that it takes getting in their face to talk to them one-on-one, whether it be in their office, which is never done, or it's at a gathering, whether it be down here or be up there. I'll go back to say the last Hancock County legislative reception is right after that's when I applied for the grant for MLK Community Center and was awarded. So, I mean, but it was agreed on there.
And it's the same difference of Bay St. Louis was there, Diamond Head was there, Hancock County was there.
Yeah.
Same thing they were there for.
All the representatives from county and city government were there.
Okay, no, this is the question that I've been fielding, and I think it's a valid question, is when was it approved as a motion to approve to go up there? The same way that Mississippi, whenever we go to legislative reception, Mississippi Municipal League, any continuing education, trips to Washington DC, trips to visit MDA, it is always approved beforehand, period.
Well, not
for
necessarily,
everybody.
not necessarily. And Malcolm, correct me if I'm wrong, but when y'all approved my travel budget in the beginning of the budget year, I don't have to come back here every time to get approval to go to travel.
Which you always do.
Yes,
Not
but just because he does, doesn't mean that legally he has to.
So-
let me finish. When you approve the travel budget for the mayor, he as the mayor has the authority to go ahead and to spend monies within that budget. And he doesn't have to come back and ask for pre-approval. Now, I will tell you this, actually, the mayor wanted me to attend, but I could not attend on that particular day for some other things that came up at the last minute. This particular function that occurred, I was well aware of it because of another city that I represent, and the mayor from that city was going up, in addition to other cities over in Harrison County, and they were all going up for one particular reason. The only time they were going to be able to get face-to-face with their legislatures and really get focus on the money at that point, and the money being their appropriation, was going to be at this function because they were all tied up in committees and sessions and not meeting with anybody until that moment. So it was a well-structured, well-planned event.
And it worked.
And then, not to mention, it was fruitful to the tune of $2.5 million. Now, I will say this, the mayor actually, to some extent, compromised his health going up there, and he's not gonna say it, but I'm gonna say it. He went and he came back and later had to deal with what he had to deal with. But nevertheless, he was well within his rights. He asked me prior to going, did he have the legal authority to authorize this travel? I researched it, I checked the budget, I made sure, I told him that, and I said that he had the authority to authorize whomever he wanted to go, as long as it was someone that was part of the city team, which included the alderman.
And within the budget. I mean, so I didn't go outside the budget.
Right.
And again, I checked on this 2 years ago. If y'all approve travel in my budget, then I don't have to come before the board every time I go somewhere to travel. And if I did, then every time I go to Jackson, there's not enough time, as many times as I go. So, I mean, I understand what you're saying, but, you know, if you think that it was, I went up there for a party, I mean, I guess it could be looked at like that, but trust me, I don't party.
And Mayor, I really don't care what the occasion was. We were personally invited up there, and I was going on my dime, and I made sure that I contacted Malcolm and yourself to make, because I was going to pay for it myself, and you said I could go under your approved budget, and I made sure through Malcolm and you, and I decided to do that. I didn't want to do anything that wasn't legal.
Yeah, and the truth about it is, y'all know we have fought for GCRF funds or BP funds every year that it's been available, and we haven't gotten any yet. So I wanted to go get in the face of those that we needed to get in the face of, in a good way. And so
It's a very, very competitive process. I can't emphasize how difficult it is and how you have to be so timely, and you have to be right there at the time, because I personally am aware of a situation where we had what I thought was $2.5 million allocated to the city of Pass Christian, and then it went up in a wisp of smoke the previous legislative session because we didn't go up there. Now, that was for another city, so it's just really about timing and making sure you're at the right place at the right time. Maybe it shouldn't be, but it is in fact the legislative process and the way it is.
very valid question, though, so I don't,
No, I guess, in granted, I'm not gonna vote for the docket. I hear what you're saying. Do I think it's basically just a party that Waveland should not be paying for? Absolutely. You know, my poor buddy, Bo Humphreys, anytime that he has travel, I unfortunately bust him everything else to make sure it's gonna be beneficial to the city, and we approve it before, regardless that's even in his budget. Everybody should be held to the same standard. So, I've received numerous phone calls about this.
Wait a minute, I don't hold myself to a different standard. Let me
But
say that
everybody
right
else
off the
gets
bat.
approved before they go.
No, they don't.
You know, let me
No,
say
you don't
this.
have to be approved to go up there.
Mike, he's mad about me. Let's move on.
Well, I understand it, but
Let me say this. Let me just make this distinction, because
okay, sorry.
let me make this distinction because it's very important.
It
When
is.
it comes to department heads, people like Bo, as you pointed out, I'll use him as an example. Yes, it does require approval coming to the board. When it deals with the mayor has executive authority both under state law and under the private charter, and he is able to do this. We did research this. I went and found AG's opinions to support this. I understand you don't approve of it, but he had every legal authority to do it. Now, you know, Mayor, I do believe that for Mr. Bobby Richardson to go up there, he needed to go under your authority to do so. And I
And he
believe
did.
that, I don't think that Jeremy could just take off up there and then send the bill back here.
No.
I think he has to get advance authority, but let's make it clear, he went under your
That's right.
invitation and your authority.
That's right, and let me say this before, we have been, and I've been a part of, and so have you, been a part of going to legislative receptions where there is food, there's alcohol, there's music, and we do that, so why do we do that? So we can get in the face of those that we need to get in the face of. I mean, you've been there with me, it ain't just been me. So, I mean, again, this is not breaking any rules, it's not going above y'all's head. Y'all approve my travel budget, and that's up to y'all that's coming here whether you approve it or not. But, it was approved, and I did get legal authority to do it, or legal counsel to tell me it was okay to do it.
Okay, Mayor. We've discussed this. You know.
So
I'm
y'all ready to vote?
I don't know about the others.
Y'all ready to vote the docket?
Yes.
All right. Ward 1, Mr. Burke.
No.
Ward 2, Mr. Richardson.
Yes.
Ward 3, Mr. LaFontaine.
Yes.
And Ward 4, Mr. Piazza.
Yes.
Thank you. Yeah, I'll tell you, I feel pretty good about us getting a call from the Speaker of the House, of all people, on Saturday, to tell me that we were awarded money, which I think that's pretty cool. All right, number 12 on the agenda, motion to approve the
Before we-
City of Waveland.
Before you read it, Mayor, can we
Okay.
clarify whether it's opt-in or opt-out? Because we have an option here, and I'd rather it say opt-in.
Can we
Vote
change
as-
that to say, motion to consider the city's of Waveland's option as pertains to the sale, so that it's clear that, you know, y'all are gonna make a decision? Because let me say this, I made this fairly clear at a previous meeting, that if you wanted to opt out, it was gonna be necessary for me to prepare a resolution. And only one of you needed to notify me, and I would prepare the appropriate resolution, and you would have it here for your consideration. None of you, and I'm not saying anything wrong, Tammy put this on the agenda for a reason, so she did the right thing, but none of you have asked me to prepare that resolution, okay? So, it would probably not be smart to try to go ahead at this point and say, well, we want to vote to opt out, and I don't even have the resolution here.
That's not what I was asking. What I was saying was, the motion reads,
Yeah,
option to opt in or opt out.
right,
Let's do it in one motion
Okay.
and put it as in or put it as out instead of the in or out.
okay.
So
You
this
want-
motion is the motion to approve opting in of allowing.
Correct.
Right,
I'll second that motion.
okay.
Okay. All right, we'll vote that motion then. Ward
Yes.
1, Mr. Burke. Ward 2, Mr. Richardson.
Yes.
Ward 3, Mr. LaFontaine.
Yes.
And Ward 4, Mr. Piazza.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, just as an aside, and I've told you this before, now you've told me what your intent is. I'm working on preparing a licensing ordinance, and a whole bunch of attorneys all around the state are working on it. We're all behind the 8 ball. Our good friend out here, Parker Berry, is working on it for other cities up in the middle part of the state. And we're all getting regulations, proposed regulations out of the Department of Revenue for dispensaries and out of the Department of Health for other cannabis businesses, and we're finding it out as we go. So we're not gonna probably be able to bring you anything substantive until, I would say, Parker, would you say late May, probably early June, something like that? I mean, you're not responsible to bring it here. Yeah.
That's kind of time frame I know for city that I work with.
Right. So, and then there is a hearing scheduled for May. Tammy gave me a slight heart attack telling me that I missed the hearing in April, but it turned out,
Yes, I did, I'm so sorry.
it turned out it was not in April after
Trying to be
all.
on top of my job.
Yeah. Well, I caught my breath and realized it was actually May. And so we have that hearing coming up, and you know which property that is on Highway 90, to be potential dispensary in one building and a processing business in the other. So we'll let you know how that goes, and you'll hear about it after that hearing.
Yeah, and so is that gonna include the zoning? Because I know that there's a AG's opinion that came out today, I think it was.
Yeah, actually, my good friend over there, Parker Berry, sent me a copy of that AG's opinion today.
So did I.
And thank
Forward you
you.
one too.
And they clarified some things that we now know about what we can do as far as time, manner, and place. And, but for now, we'll be able to have the conditional use hearing set up in May, and then we'll see what the recommendation is of the planning commission. So that's where we are.
All right, thank you. All right, 13 on the agenda, motion to approve
Consider,
sorry?
motion to consider?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I thought we voted that already.
Did you vote the one with the cannabis?
Yeah,
Yes.
thought so.
Okay. All right. So motion to consider.
Let me ask this, Mayor, before we read this motion.
Okay.
It was discussed that, carry 13 and 14 over to tomorrow night.
Yeah,
So I don't know if you want to recess, carry those two over, have a discussion tonight, carry 13 and 14 over on a recess meeting to tomorrow night for the vote, and also for a workshop.
that's exactly what I was
How
gonna
do we
do,
want,
but
how do we want to do that?
Well, is there a way that we can make a motion that we would approve at tomorrow night, but actually say which one we would want to approve?
Can I offer a suggestion?
Please.
All right, so where we stand is this, is that tonight, Parker Berry and Mr. Holland are here, and also Ms. Beasley are here. They're gonna, do a presentation. You know, at the previous meeting we had, which was on the 3rd, we had a hearing, and it was to receive information about the process. Well, tonight, the hearing is to hear what the potential option maps are, and then, and we have 2 potential option maps. And then after you hear from, Mr. Barry, we're gonna take comment from the public, but to give the public even more time, even though we're on a very short schedule, and I'll explain that, we're gonna go ahead and carry it over until tomorrow night, and then receive more public input and vote on it then. All right?
The OG.
So instead of a motion to approve redistricting option, we just have a motion to approve to,
Motion to consider?
consider
Yeah.
and, the presentation for tonight?
Yes, and then, we'll carry forward the, motion to approve the ordinance to tomorrow night. It'll be tabled.
So 13 and 14 will be tomorrow night. We just need a motion
Right.
for a presentation tonight.
Correct.
I'll move.
I'll second.
All right?
All right, we'll vote that motion for the presentation tonight. Ward 1, Mr. Burke.
Yes.
Ward 2, Mr. Richardson.
Yes.
Ward 3, Mr. LaFontaine.
Yes.
And Ward 4, Mr. Piazza.
Yes.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Parker.
All right, I will go through this. I know y'all seen some of this stuff already. We've obviously talked about it extensively for several months, and we've talked about the benchmark, and we were here 2 weeks ago. Myself, obviously, Parker Berry with Butler Snow, Ken Holland with GRPC, and Allison Hawkins with SMPDD. And so we're obviously your redistricting team. First map up here, I know it's kind of hard to see. You're welcome to come see it. First one's your benchmark, which I know y'all, that's your current map is what we call it, as it stands, and y'all have had it for years. The second map, and we're going to go through this on these handouts, is what's called basically the proposal 1, but it's dated April 20th, 2022, okay? It's the redistricting map, April 20, 2022. The second one is what's alternative 1. So this, the 2 different options, essentially, okay? As you recall, when you got the census numbers back, the 2020 numbers, your deviation was out of whack, right? And so your one person, one vote under the Constitution required you to redistrict. And I'm just highlighting these because we've already talked about this, and we talked about this 2 weeks ago. So I'm trying, for sake of time, not diving back into that. But you knew you had to redistrict. Your numbers among the wards were out of whack, right? So that was the first thing we had to look at, and that tells us that we had to redistrict. So in doing so, you have two different maps, okay? So let's first look at, and you have the handout, which just mirrors what's up here, and then behind it's the table, the numbers that go with it, okay? So the first one we'll look at, City of Waveland, Mississippi, Redistricting Plan, April 20, 2022. That's this middle map right here. As you can see, 4 wards there, and the deviation is within plus or minus 5% for each ward. Ward 4 being at 0.67, Ward 3 being at 261, Ward 2 being at 105, and Ward 1 being down 4.44%. Now, in that particular map, and you better view up here, it takes all 4 wards cross Highway 90, and there are certain changes, obviously, from the original map or from the current map in the benchmark. Obviously, the main one being all 4 wards cross Highway 90. Additionally, under the benchmark, Ward 2 was too high, so needed to lose a little population. Ward 3 was significantly down in population, 11.5%, so it had to gain. And then Ward 4 was too high at 5.88%, so it needed to lose population. So there were some shifts in particular areas for the April 20, 2022 proposal. There's one particular area in Ward 4 along the Phillip Drive, kind of in that area, the area Beth Court, that was in 4 that is now, that was in 3 that is now being proposed in 4. And then again, there's an area across Highway 90 that Ward 3 moves across up there around Baltic Street, Hudson Street, and Santiago Lane. You can see it on this map. It's a big green block there. I'm just picking the highlights here primarily. Ward 2 crosses 90 for the first time, takes a huge chunk in there up around Walmart, Favre Road, Timberlier Street, Chesapeake Street, that entire area. You can see it on the map. And then Ward 1 shrinks back still across Highway 90, just not as much as it currently is under your current plan. And then there's a little bit of changes along the Emerald Lake area. Ward 1 would take all of the Emerald Lake census block. It's currently split. And also then move over westward a little bit to the down Wainwright Street, across McLaren Road, where St. Joseph meets there. So, and there's a little bit of changes down around the beach for Ward 1. Would expand down beyond Lafitte Street all the way towards, is that pronounced Favor? Favre. It is Favre? Okay.
Yes.
Well, I thought so, but I never know. Maybe pronounce it different. You never know where you're going. Nevertheless, because there's another Favre Street that's actually spelled correctly on the other part. Right. I know. So I figured I know how to pronounce the typical Brett Favre, but I didn't know how we do it down here. So, nevertheless, it moves down. That is currently in Ward 2, but in this map proposal, which is the middle one, Ward 1 would take in that area, right? Because basically, look at it, lost a decent amount across Highway 90 because Ward 1 shrunk back, so it needed to gain some elsewhere, and so some of it's along the beach. That's just the quick and dirty of a summary there. And I know y'all have looked at this or seen drafts, various versions, so and y'all have seen some of the streets, but that's just a summary of that. The corresponding numbers or deviations good for this. This is a good plan. Both, in my opinion, are good plans, but it does not matter to us. We're here to help you decide, provide you some options, and you decide which one you want to do. The chart on the next page, I guess I gave you, goes with it. As far as your numbers, you can see it there. You can see your deviation. You can see your population. You can see your white, your black, your voting age population all the way through. And so you have that chart there, so that's what those numbers are. All right, moving on to the next option, which is Redistricting Plan April 20, 2022, Alternative 1, which is the very first map up here, which I also handed you, and it's titled there. This actually looks a little similar or more similar to your benchmark plan as far as the shape of your districts, but it does not change. Ward 3 and Ward 4 are the same. So Ward 3 and Ward 4 are the same in both options. So it does not affect those wards. What it does affect, the changes obviously are to 1 and to 2. And the difference here is that 2 would come back and take that area, which it currently has. Alderman Richardson currently has the area, McLaurin Road, Wainwright Street. So it would come back and take this area, that triangle part right here. This part right here, as you can see in this plan, comes back into Ward 2, the pink. That's about 100 people in there. So in doing so, that puts Alderman Burt down significantly in population and taking that triangle, if you will, 100 people, because he already was down 4%. So in doing that, he's got to gain population. So Alderman Burt then goes back and takes a good chunk of that across, as you can see it, Highway 90, which is the current area that Ward 1 already covers, except for that one green block that would be in Mr. LaFontaine's district, or his ward. So that is a change between the two maps. And then the other change is down along the beach for this Alternative 1, is that Ward 2 would take back in that area all the way to Hillcrest Street, which is currently in Ward 2. The only difference is that it wouldn't go all the way to Lafitte. So that one block, it's about 22 people, would go to Ward 1. So that's the primary differences between the two the two options, if you will. The April 2022 plan and April 2022 plan Alternative 1. It's just changes to Wards 1 and Wards 2, just in those areas. Both are good plans. Both are legal, defensible. It's purely up to what the board wants to do. The deviation is ironically identical on either one. They just switch between the two wards, 1 and 2. So you're complying under the Constitution in that regards. And then you have the table that corresponds, again, just like the first one, with all the different voting numbers.
We have,
Yes, sir.
lady like that.
Yes, ma'am. Sure.
Comment. Rather than referring to these
Well, sure we can, but
Because, hey, we got an election coming up in November.
you sure do, and you never know what could happen. That's exactly right. Currently, these are the aldermen that are elected to those wards.
Please refer to it by numbers.
All right, do y'all have any questions, board members? Mayor, any questions on these? Okay, so 2 options, again. I think these are a product of a lot of work and time, and it will obviously be up to the board to decide what y'all want to do, but
And Parker,
both are
what's the
good options.
timeline?
Yeah, good question, Mayor. So y'all are under a very tight timeline, and the public may already know that. There's an election this year. The circuit clerk has to update the voter rolls when these changes are made, of which they should, in turn, mail out notification to all voters that are impacted by the changes. There's 1 polling place for the city. Somebody had that question earlier. It's not multiple. It's 1 polling place. So you vote at the same place, but you're going to need to know which ward you're in, right, if you get moved. And so you have primaries coming up at some point this year, and the circuit clerk has to make those changes into the system, the statewide election management system. And there's a time period that they're locked out from doing so unless they can work with the Secretary of State. So point being, you don't have much time, and so that's why we've been trying to push this along, and we're almost there. And again, it does not matter. This is purely y'all's decision what y'all want to do between these particular options that we developed through comments from y'all, and then obviously this entire process. So yes, but you're under a tight timeline to get this done so that the circuit clerk can update
Whenever
the
you
rolls.
say the tight timeline, and we're pushing this through and stuff like that, it sounds like it's a rush. Will you please explain?
Sure.
Wasn't there an issue with the census not getting
Yes.
completed on time?
That's right. I know
So that's pushed us back.
That's right. So
not that-
it's a
not that we've held
product.
off on
That's
doing
correct.
this.
We were engaged back in December, so this is not something that the city drug its feet on. The data was delayed 6 months from the U.S. Census Bureau. The official data did not come out until September. And as everybody knows, it's a process to do this, right? Because you're dealing with a lot of opinions, there's legal requirements, and there's a lot of iterations and drafts that go into to try to develop to this point where you have 2 options to consider, okay? And so that's exactly right, and it's also a product of the city being a special chartered city where you have regular elections this year, where most cities have they had their elections last year, so they have considerable amount of time, more time. And counties are next year, so they're actually under the gun too. But certainly Waveland and the handful of other special charter cities that have elections this year was always going to be a quicker turnaround. But again, we were engaged in December. A criteria was adopted in February. We've had a number of different, ideas and comments and drafting sessions and whatnot to arrive at this point. Additionally, we can't control, the statewide election management system and the circuit clerk's office when they can access it. And congressional elections are in June, and those can impact when you can change the system because you can't be changing voter profiles typically when an election is impending within 30 days, no matter the type of election that it is. So very good point. I know it sounds like this is all boom all of a sudden, but this has been a process going on for some amount of time. And so it's just a byproduct of a delay in the census and when your elections are this year.
So you keep referring to narrowing it down to these 2 options. There obviously were more options prior to these 2. So how many drafts are there, and how did they get narrowed down to just these 2? Was it through going to each alderman and saying, what do you not want to see, or what do you want to see for your board? How did it get narrowed down to just these 2? And are the others still on the table? Can they be brought back to the table if the public doesn't like these?
Sure. So
Parker, let
Go
me
ahead.
address that. So, obviously, there were other drafts, and it's to just explain the process to you. There was input both individually from aldermen, and there was input at meetings and work sessions. What had ended up happening is that it took a while for the aldermen to, this only happens every 10 years, so you don't do it often. So it took a while for them to understand that how it works. It's a jigsaw puzzle, and like I said, when you're moving a block, and a block is not necessarily like we think in our heads. It's a piece, like it might be a parallelogram, it might be all kinds of different shapes, and it's got a certain number of people. When you move it, you're you're really not supposed to divide it. Now, in some cases, you do have to divide it, but you have to do that with hesitancy because you don't know where the people are living in the particular area. So there was at least one other draft that Mr. Holland actually started with. And you know, it's like anything, if you just go ahead and start with 0, then it takes a while to get to somewhere. And so finally, Mr. Holland, with help from Mr. Berry, said, what about this? After they listened to a lot of comments and narratives. And it was not something that was directed by the alderman, like, I want it to be this way. It was just in general, you know, this area is important. It's always had this, voters have always gone and considered themselves to be part of this ward and so on. So a lot of it had to do with crossing the highway. That seems to be a big theme here that I heard over and over. I'm pretty new to the city overall, but I heard that a lot. And then there was a certain amount of just trying to maintain certain things. There was a big push to not dilute neighborhoods and certain communities. There was a huge effort made about that, trying to protect certain systems, certain communities. And so, I might be wrong about that, Ken, but I think it was only one other map that y'all sort of put together and said, let's start somewhere. So y'all put it out there, and then that's when they started saying how it's gonna work and not work. And we moved pieces around on the puzzle with the computer to get back to where we are now. Is that right?
That sounds fairly accurate, that's correct.
If I missed a step, that was not my intention, because it went
No,
over
I know, yeah.
Yeah,
a long
in,
period of
in
time.
any place, you could draw an infinite number of maps, right? And so there's got to be a starting point, and as Malcolm has stated, we had a starting point, which is the benchmark over here, and so we work from there as the roadmap, the district that's too high, or the ward that's too high, the ward that's too low, and we start coming up with suggestions. Additionally, back in February, the board adopted criteria that it would follow: one person, one vote, consideration of the Voting Rights Act, contiguous districts, respect for incumbency, respect for political subdivisions or communities of interest, drawing on physical boundaries. That's our roadmap, and so that's where we started from to try to get maps that are compliant. Certainly there are 2 here before you, there could be 10, but it's their job to whittle it down, and so our is to try to present them with at least one option that they could consider. Certainly you could draw 10 different maps, 15 different maps, but this we feel like accomplishes all the criteria that was adopted by the board and are good plans for the city. But again, that's up to the board what they ultimately want to do.
Right. And the other thing I wanted to point out was the option maps that are here tonight, at least the one that is not alternate number 1, but the first one, basically was presented for the first time, I think, Monday.
That's right. I believe there were some citizens that
Some of the
reviewed
citizens
it on
wanted
Monday.
to come to City Hall, and they looked
No.
at it, they wanted to view the map, they got some information, asked questions about demographics and some other things. Other than that, I don't know that there was any request to view it by any other groups
That's
or
right.
individuals.
Any other questions?
There were other groups. There were other groups that came,
For one,
so you,
was,
so you did have the
the mayor
opportunity.
knows.
You had the opportunity to review it.
I went up and looked at one, but this is dramatically changed, this one right here is dramatically changed. Ward 1 was the only ward that was pretty well in line with the number of voters that we needed to have, and now we're looking at it with, it's a negative 4.1, which is, just looking at it from across the room, it looks like it's changed dramatically in the number, because we started out fine, now
Well,
we're
as
low.
this process, though, when you move, it is very hard to draw, in effect, 3 districts, but not the 4th one. So just because Ward 1 started out within deviations, like 0.39% down, when you start moving pieces, it's a puzzle, right? And it just has a ripple effect all the way out. So certainly in this particular option, the middle map, the one dated today, Ward 1 it is different in that it shrinks back a good bit from across Highway 90. And additionally gains a little more on the beach. Alternative 1 has more similar shape, right, as far as the ward to the current map, taking in a good bit of across 90 as it already had, and then very similar along the beach area. So
And the number of voters, the percentages is good on one.
either one. Yes, ma'am. Yeah, they both work. They're both within plus or minus 5%.
It's within the 5.
That's right, which the law allows.
Being perfect to
Yeah.
being
So-
almost.
So both maps, both of these two maps, the one that's dated April 20th and then the one that's dated April 20th says alternate 1, both had features that were acceptable to all members of the board.
Yes.
Some members like alternate 1 better than the other map, but others said they could take either one. So the idea was to put it up there, let you look at it, let you ask questions about it, and then you could go ahead and see where you end up individually. If you don't like it, you can comment to your alderman or to the mayor, and then they can try to take that into consideration. I wish, to be honest with you, I wish that they would have finished the census earlier, and I wish we could have had this process actually take part in the fall of last year and not get it and then take off in January, but it doesn't matter, it's where we are, and we have to finish it. We've gotta have it all done for the qualifying deadline, which in the past has been in June. And I know that sounds like a long time, but I spent a good bit of time today working with the circuit clerk, Kendra, about trying to figure out a way she could get it, input it, have it ready, send out all of the letters to the individuals so they will know exactly where they're gonna vote. There will be some confusion. There will be a need to have further public outreach and contact people so that we can try to avoid affidavit voting, but every election that I've helped with through the years has that. Sometimes it's worse than better, but the point is that this is not a process that's voluntary. It had to happen. It had to occur. We could not, by law, continue with the map that was drawn and is the benchmark map.
That's right.
So,
With all due respect,
Yeah.
preaching to the choir, we know that.
Okay?
We know that the numbers changed. We know that 40 needed more change than anybody. We knew all that. But, you know, I'm curious because we did keep saying that we were gonna have a public hearing. And now here we are, you know, on the 20th, and we've gotta have it done before the 1st. And look in a row. And so what I'm saying is, you know, you made the comment, well, people could have come up here and looked at it. Well, they were waiting on the public hearing. A lot of people were waiting on a public hearing. It never happened.
Right.
Right.
So
Right.
I personally announced that there would be a hearing on the 3rd. It was a special night, not a meeting night. I announced it twice at meetings.
Website for it, it's never on there.
I understand, but I personally went ahead and made a point to say that,
On the
and
3rd of
people,
what? Next month?
no, of April. The city had a special meeting to allow these folks to come and make a presentation. You
Yes.
attended,
I was here.
yes.
It was at that meeting that they talked about having public hearings.
Right.
About all of this, about when this was gonna
Right.
happen.
That was the opportunity for people to go ahead and start their comments and ask questions. You know, I know that it seems like that you have to go ahead and wait, but in reality, there is no ability to wait. I wish there was. But, and what I'd like to ask
Good
is,
information.
what I'd like to know
We
is
won't
this.
have to wait anymore for anything.
What is the solution now that we're at this point, other than giving an additional day?
Well, maybe.
Or maybe we should
could-
wait till Monday. Would that be better?
No, I'm not saying
No,
that.
let's wait till Monday.
What I'm saying to you, well, let me tell you.
Give the
Since
weekend.
you asked, I'll be happy to tell you.
Yeah,
Why don't we use the website that we have, take this information, put it on the website, let us go out there and network with the community, and let them go on there and see what's going on. Let them see what's happening.
do you think the website is the best way to get it out there?
I think that the website's a great start because it's a central location that people don't have to get in a car
Yep.
and come up here or file a FOIA to get a piece of information. It should be public.
Right. Did anybody have to
Ms.
do a
Brenda?
FOIA to get them out, Tammy?
No.
Okay,
No.
all right.
Ms.
I just
Brenda.
wanna make sure.
I have an observation to make, and
I didn't get
a good solution, I think it's a good solution. One way that the public is going to find out about this, hopefully, whoever's running for those wards, those seats, they're gonna be out there beating the bushes, and they're gonna tell them, you are now in my district, my ward.
Praise the Lord, yes,
Yeah.
indeed.
I would hope that they're gonna go out and beat it.
Yeah.
If not, they're not gonna get elected.
Right, right.
So I really believe that that is gonna be the most effective way to get, the notice out to the public, that you will now be voting in this ward or this ward.
Right. Rather than continue this till tomorrow night to address what Ms. Rhonda has said, I think it would be appropriate for the board, if possible, to continue this till to Monday night.
To Monday night.
Mr. Bobby, I think he's still on the line. He sent me a text saying that he could make Monday better than he can make tomorrow. So does that work for the rest of you?
Does that work for the timeline to get it to,
Yes.
the
We still
county?
have enough time.
And I guess
Yes.
the one, and, you know, Monday's fine. The one thing which I happen to see, or Chancellor Clerk, can
Yes.
you get, and I'm sure you have it probably already,
Yes.
a copy of, we need to get a contract with her so she can redo, because that's not necessarily her realm of duty for a municipality.
We talked about that today.
Gotcha.
She said that she's working on a contract for us, but we believe it's gonna be somewhere in the range of about $2,500.
But just so it can be executed at the same time, so
Yes.
she can start on everything.
Yes. But she's going to, we've already talked about getting special permission from the Secretary of State's office to reopen so they can go ahead and input the data since we have these special circumstances. You know, from all I can tell, the only city that seems to be in this boat down here on the coast is Waveland.
Because of our
Because they have that
special charter.
special charter, and so, it is what it is. But, look, I'm all about trying to get it out. I don't wanna sound like I'm an obstructionist, but my job is to make sure we stay on target and on time. And so I think we need to go ahead and, I think having the weekend would help. And so I'd say, let's move it from Thursday, let's go to Monday, if y'all would just, accommodate on that. And so, I know there's somebody else had a comment or question. Oh, Clarence, there he is, over there.
Just wanted, I guess, comment, I think Monday or one day, we came and looked at the maps about 5 roads, and we only had one of those maps.
Right. That's a newer version,
Yeah.
Mr. Clarence, it came since you came, right.
My point is that when we came to look at it, it was about 5 roads, 4 of us and then another person.
Right.
The other person had a lot of comments. The other thing was that we were here with nobody to explain it to us. We didn't have anybody here but Miss Tammy. And she was trying to, we was going asking her questions.
Right.
So if it was open to the public, I'm like, if you put it on the website where everybody could have been here, where some representatives could have been here to talk to us, we just came to look at some maps. We couldn't actually decide, we looked and seen how they was changed, and we were only looking at the one.
Right.
So,
This,
to me, that was, our purpose for being here, just to come look at a map.
I understand. The new map, the new alternate map right there, Mr. Clarence, that was something that was actually created. Ken, was that today that you did that based upon comments you got from, I think Bobby? Yeah. Right. Yeah.
It has been a long day for us.
Yeah, so I believe it was based upon not so much comments from your group, Mr., if I can say that, Mr. Clarence, but from other considerations that were brought up by Bobby and some others. And so they just wanted to come up with another alternative that they like better. And the truth about it is, alternative one appears to be closer to what the original benchmark map was, right?
Certainly as far as shape, yes.
Yeah, and so that, I can't tell you, it seemed like we were playing some kind of a crazy, triple crossword at 12-layer game. Every time we'd move things around and try to do things, it just kept throwing the numbers out of whack over and over and over and over and over, and it just seemed like we never could get to that. When they finally were able to achieve this, and this being defined as the alternate map, Ken was excited to send it to say, I found another way, because everybody was suggesting things to him, and it just never worked out with the numbers. I mean, the percentages never came out, except for the one there on April 20th, and then the other one.
Ken, did you get my request for numbers today?
I saw it,
Is that something that possible, because I think that would help Mr. Clarence and.
Yeah, I can give him copies of the numbers
Okay.
right now.
So this one,
these two.
the one that I wrote number 2 on was done today. This is the one, was there any changes from Thursday whenever
There was not, when we
met
had a
and
session, there was
Alderman
not.
Richardson?
That's
This is
correct.
no changes to this one.
Not for the original April 20th
And this is,
plan.
and this is all today.
Right, Mr.
Yes.
Clarence, two things, no excuses, but I was sick as a dog on Monday. I was gonna try to come and help, but I got stomach bug, unfortunately, on Easter, right after lunch, and was in bad shape on Monday. The mayor was trying to figure out a way to come up here as well.
Well, I was here and I had to leave because.
The doctor pretty much told him, get the hell home. And so, I'm sorry that, it didn't turn out the way that you had anticipated it to be. And in fact, we tried to, best we could, me working from home sick, Mayor trying to get home and deal with his doctor's appointments. Parker, I think you were actually out of pocket as well, and unavailable.
Yeah, I was handling actually, for accounting, doing their redistricting, so when
Yeah.
y'all were trying to ask, I
So
didn't get a
we
chance to
want to
talk to them.
answer those questions for you, and we have a few more days to do it, so let's try to.
So the new group was coming on Monday?
Yeah. To look at the,
Only to look, no, just to look at,
only to look at the
Yeah.
maps.
only look at the map.
Only to look at the
I
maps.
understand that.
Right,
I understand that.
right, just like you did. Right,
Mr. Martin?
right,
So did.
I was at the last meeting when they made their initial presentation,
right.
and prior to dismissing or recessing, council assured us if we wanted to be part of this planning session to review this and have input into the community, the reorganization of these maps, we were to notify the city clerk with our contact information, and we would be called or emailed to re-attend these meetings. I, for one, never received a contact, a call, or anything.
Who did you notify?
The city clerk by email,
Miss Fayard?
yes,
Okay,
on the 8th.
okay.
But I'm just saying, everybody says, we didn't know. There's a prime example. I was never contacted.
Okay,
If I hadn't had somebody call me and say, look, the maps are up there, I wouldn't have been up here Monday.
yeah, my apologies to you, I didn't know that you made that
And mine as
notification.
well, yeah.
Did you get that, Tammy?
I'm sure I probably did. I'm so sorry. It's
Okay.
been- I apologize.
All right,
All right, so we are going to recess 13 and 14 until Monday, is that
Yep.
okay with everybody?
table, yeah.
We're gonna
Table that until
recess the
Monday?
meeting?
Same time, 6:30?
Yes. I can't get any earlier.
Or if anybody needs it earlier, I'm good anytime Monday.
Is that your motion, Shane?
Yes, 6:30 Monday. We'll recess until then.
All right, for 13 and 14. So, Ward 1, Mr. Burke.
Yes.
Ward 2, Mr. Richardson.
Yes.
Ward 3, Mr. LaFontaine.
Yes.
And Ward 4, Mr. Piazza.
Yes.
Thank you.
Mayor, I don't have any comments tonight or any reasons for executive session.
All right, if hearing,
Adjourn or you just recess?
We need to recess.
I'll move to recess.
Okay.
Seconds?
all right, we'll vote that motion. Ward 1, Mr. Burke.
Yes.
Ward 2, Mr. Richardson.
Yes.
Ward 3, Mr. LaFontaine.
Yes.
And Ward 4, Mr. Piazza.
Yes.
Thank you.
Mayor, can we have somebody go check that air conditioning unit?
They did already.
Felt like the heater was on.
They,
I thought it was just me.
Ron,
Upstairs on what?
It is not, it's not, yeah, yeah.